know if they've got questions.
Could get county come
Unless
there.
it's on the plate. Unless it's on the plate.
Yeah.
It's pretty humble out there looking forward.
I knew I should've took a harder stance on that.
Yeah, I thought everything would be in place, but, they just.
You know,
discussed it.
the best laid plans
Yeah.
comes around
I
like shit.
think it's more of the public relations side of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna work.
that's Brian.
I think she struck my light.
Well, it works.
Oh, well.
Doggone it, it works. And we,
Probably the most important part.
well, we try to make friends, but, you know, people don't like to be audited, but, we try to make it as nice as possible.
Painless.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you loaded for
And the other
bankruptcy.
thing,
No, I
I
just,
didn't see was the summary of the, well, we need to finalize on a process, not necessarily a name, but a process for
Incorporated cities.
IDA going.
There.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I didn't bring my list of
We
names.
need to
How many tax?
send them over there, and they said that's too, when we feed it, or,
How big is the incorporated?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the best way to do it, I just
Right.
know
Right.
it don't need to flop six
We-
names down and all.
We've
all
got
of it.
along
I'm
enough.
not sure about.
We've got
how
enough
they are in
candidates,
cities.
we've gone long enough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying we get any more people, I'm just saying,
Right.
One does.
what's the process we wanna go through to
And
figure
then
it out?
about 3 miles outside of Danielsville here.
I don't have a good feel for it. I was,
And then they're.
in my mind, I was gonna go through the candidates.
Right now, pretty
If I
involved
felt like there was any
in
rule outs, I was
water
gonna take them out of my
sewer.
file and then sort of throw it to the IDA and see if they had a preference.
You know, Frank Yen,
And,
Pardon?
Frank Yen.
I don't know, that's just sort of what I had in my mind, but we probably be better for us to have an idea of how we're gonna do it.
Well, I just think it's,
We have a.
Because we don't, it's just gonna be a free for all.
Right.
And I'm, you know,
Properties.
No, we don't have any impact.
I like process.
No active, industrial.
I agree.
development.
Not that I
It
know.
makes me, I can get my head around it better,
Yep.
and then I think it's defensible.
Yep.
It could be wrong, but it's,
I know we don't-
Right.
at least we.
We can be certain, we make it
Yeah.
wrong, we be certain.
The Board of Assessors.
In talking about that, I'll just tell y'all, in reading it, who I was probably the most
Always
impressed
be
with,
informed,
and he happens to be a voter with us now,
not to give away the
being
county
voter.
or some of these contracts are just unbelievable.
Yeah, we don't have any of
I
that.
had a little conversation with him, and I found him.
He was the director of IBM.
Pretty lovely guy, you know.
Frank
Frank Yen's the director, that's,
Yes.
when he go, he was water superintendent.
Yes, and it still is.
And he,
One and the same.
Frank Myers, this is mine.
Sure, you got enough to drink?
Yeah, if we're low, we'll get one out.
Yeah.
the other thing I found really attractive about him is he's got no connection to anyone, one way or the other.
He is in industry, right?
Well, he's free.
He is, if I understand it, he's almost like a
Keep my mask on.
Ismar type person.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
I will soon as sit down. I mean, I wasn't even around any of the people that got.
Like, I mean,
Well, I wasn't either.
even if it's not written down, we all agree. We
Yeah,
come
yeah,
up with our top two,
Each of us come up with top two and compare them and see if there's a.
and then top, you know,
stand up and shake his
the top three out of our top two.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm just trying to maybe get some kind of idea. Because if we don't,
Just can't do it.
then I don't want to be able to figure all mine.
And then
I hope I
one
know.
county attorney. So that's that.
We just waiting on you.
I agree with it, though, very well.
Happy
New Year. Happy New Year. Whatever y'all decided on.
You vote yes.
I'll vote yes to make sure, because it makes it quicker.
Thanks, sir.
Take one, pass it around.
We'll have to.
99 bucks.
Y'all gonna have to.
Not mention naming.
I give the mic back. Just hang on. I don't think I'll need it.
Oh, mercy. Yeah, we still stand up.
You have an extra one for our
Sure
clerk?
do. Got two extras. You need a second one?
Nope, we're just gonna put one right on the clerk's
You
desk.
help? I got it.
Oh, mercy.
So you all been having decent weather here too?
Yeah, quite as warm as we have, but
Not bad, but we were, Sunday was in the seventies.
Yeah, yeah. Well, 70,
I think it hit 75, but it's supposed to be 73. And I knew the cold snow, but I didn't think it would go. We had flurries enough to, all the roofs were covered, a little bit in our front yard, and then our back, the grill and a little bit on the deck, a little snow, flurries just a little here now.
she'll be in shortly.
What do y'all need?
I'll get it. She'll be in shortly.
Okay. We didn't get any snow. We didn't get any flurries. We got a lot of wind though.
Oh my gosh, the wind, yeah, everything on my deck was just blowing away.
I hope we didn't have an umbrella though.
No.
Did he talk to you guys?
But it was, yeah, it woke me up once in the middle of the night, the house. Wow, wow. And I turned over and he said, really? I said, "What?"
That is not.
I've been up all night because of this stupid noise and lifting the thing, just howling and breaking and all this stuff, and you're gonna go back and sleep? I said, I've been sleeping fine, so I'm gonna head back there. My wife, and she's the one that has to get up at like 4:30.
Yeah.
She's a mammographer and has to go into the hospital, so she has to be there around 6. Well, okay, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Or at least that's what they used to tell me when I worked
That's
out.
the only one on the list.
Back years ago.
Reservations, all right.
She looks so much like my accountant.
I had a call about it.
RCDA for our business.
Oh.
They're right next door.
Person that had to hear you. And he was just,
Wednesday is with the planning.
against it. I told him.
I'll
give you Brian's number.
Commissioner CPA is right next door.
I got some calls
You
from
look
some
so
of
much
the.
like her. Her name's Chris.
Was it about the
You're my wife.
Oh, that's all about it.
So you win either way.
They called me and I
Good
said,
deal. Yeah.
well, you know, I'm still trying to figure that out. I think your commissioner, Mr. Adams, has got the most, best information on that.
I'm still racking up the high call list
No,
on
but at
there.
the same time, I wanted to,
I told
I didn't want to respect you or
granddaughter
anyone else by
a
not
couple
letting
of
you know.
weeks ago at church.
We're fine.
I told her, I said, I just hate to see you
I
come
called
home.
free.
I said, all you do is come down here and stir the food.
Go back up.
Lady in the office, runs the office.
I hope so.
Been there for 10, 12 years. Would you say Brittany been there about 12 years?
Yep.
She got it, right, she took some days on Christmas, so she had like a whole week and a half.
Oh.
And, she got it, about halfway through all that. So sorry.
Those are old age.
6 days. But
So
she
it was,
fine yesterday.
you know, now I will have to say, just in December of last year, I had a young man come before you about, but he was not doing a reading facility, he was doing a training. And there were a couple of times that
But I feel more.
he bought, place up there, and a couple of times I dropped in, he has never had more than 2 dogs in-house, and he had one day that he had 4 additional folks that he was training first.
Very long
And
time.
it was, everything he said he would do, he just done it. And, you know, I respect that.
How are you, sir? Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm good, how y'all doing? Good, very good. When I read it, I had.
I did, and I thought he was actually supposed to be on the agenda.
Well, he may be. I don't know, he just left me a voicemail and said that,
And they work where they do 10 in their staff.
he was probably gonna be
3 a day.
phone in, I said, that's great.
You sent an email to them?
Every place, I guess, is different.
Yeah, but they did shut the county down here for about 2 weeks.
That was completely changed. Good man.
Nothing
Just the
compared to a lot of
guy
counties.
that put on
I guess it's
the
go down there or start in Columbus.
Yeah.
He's
a sharp foot.
That's it. That's down and out.
Oh, you
He's
don't,
very thoughtful, so
you don't get,
As a business.
you're not as like,
Some of that, some of that business.
I promise.
Business owner, they have to deal with that. That, I was relying on Christopher's, that information came from Christopher, the whole reason Christopher's mother and sister.
Yeah, let's see.
So, I guess maybe he sort of tippy-toeing fine.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that I couldn't take.
It was a neighbor, but
It's a little scary, isn't it?
Yeah, we are tied together, Canola. We haven't had Christmas yet, we're doing that this Saturday, New Year's is what?
I had to get the rezone.
But you already had me.
That's right, well,
Existing business needs there's gotta be a better way to do
couldn't do it that week, then we couldn't do it, Christmas.
when we have
Had to go to the mother.
Respect you to have.
number 6 on our list of
And then past
I thought it'd be an
weekend, our
8-1,
youngest
we're
son,
supposed to
his
have a
wife,
minimum of 10
made
acres.
plans, they went out about it.
It's 10 days.
You know, I'd really like,
Yep.
there would be
Tree and everything
something
go up.
to facilitate before it ever comes to us, that it gets at least in compliance, because traditionally it reaches us, because all we're doing is setting the stage.
Christmas trees up on month.
That same situation,
So my name's.
up there at Midway, which I suppose they started.
Every time.
But this year I got it up the week before Thanksgiving,
So it comes up.
because my mama
This puts us in the middle.
today.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
Put y'all in. Y'all need to straighten this up.
It is not in compliance with her, so it would need to be
I've been here long enough, I've learned how to pass this stuff off. I'm learning real fast.
Good, we'll go back today, or y'all start next week?
We started back today, the kids started back somebody
Yeah.
doing a business.
I had my grandkids today, so let that go back to.
So we went the only way to is to change it to the appropriate zone, which like, it's probably gonna be spot zone. Just put business zone somewhere you don't. So if there's a mechanism to allow them, maybe it's something. Maybe they.
Chatham is all about.
They can see they're not employed, maybe they come to us to improve their expansion.
The Spider-Man movie.
We can do that without doing a rezone. But it's gotta be a different mechanism. They're creating an odd zone or something, just because.
Coming out of Hollywood. Of course, everybody's not here, because she's on
Last minute.
There were also some,
Yeah.
there were some other rulings that I could talk about.
You got a lot of history.
On that specific,
Yeah.
there was a,
Yeah.
there was a question, have you always? He's always been with his wife. I came back last Saturday, so. You're ready. everybody.
We went to,
You're kidding me.
for an early dinner, we went to where we up there on Northern Town. I've known that couple since they came to Athens, and they built a place down there where I'm not there.
You go, just don't be poking me, so you'll get me sick.
Anyway, we.
Everybody do have a good time. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Y'all have a good break.
I hired on to do tires.
It's always good to get back to routine. How you our email is down since 3:30 today. We have internet. Put an extension up. It should work. Oh, yeah? Yeah, we got one right outside the door.
I don't feel well. I have to leave.
They would put them in the end. I'll tell you what, we can do, but that's still be a more change to extend the password.
Yeah. I broke that camera.
That, economic development. Wasn't sure where you stood. We at least felt like our job writer, he would be qualified. Somebody who's interested. I think so. Because he was sending the email on top of the string, she had sent about something else. I don't know. The actual reason what we were asking. I'll ask regional commission, somebody come to 4 meetings a year.
Oh, yeah.
Have we heard,
And so I didn't send it to.
speaking about regional commission, the grant, the IDA,
I sent it, it was probably about 4:30.
No, my understanding, it's all gonna be in July. I'm sorry, January.
Yeah. And there's.
So we did find out last week or last, I talked to Michael Ford.
You know, we can only send out certain size
There
documents.
was one of them is January.
I think beginning of January, the other middle of January. And I didn't think about, yeah.
so by the end of the month,
We have to, we should know, both of ours, we should know for the IDA. Whatever,
on
we
that,
have to do it on that.
and just so I'm understanding
Preferred
what's going on
document or
there,
whatever.
the money that we
Allocated.
allocated
I will
to
figure
that,
out how to do that. I did whatever I
for the
was.
IDA to use that money, it's dependent on securing that grant. That money's gonna come back.
It's ours. We'll give it to them if they
If
can
they
get it back.
get that
If they don't, it comes back to us, and they can request it again for something, another grant. But it's not.
We're gonna spend it, we're gonna spend it.
And the state is, there's so many people apply, such a larger amount of money, so nobody may have to go out and make requests to apply. That might be something.
You know where to go for it, instead of having to.
Yes.
What to look at.
That is a possibility for that.
Count?
We-
Wait a minute. Oh, this is too close to Christmas to call it
In a
count.
way, we done. We get.
I need count. I hope I don't miss count.
We should have done this, but I know what it's called, to run it outside the box.
I got it here. Oh, yeah, we tried one.
We had a December 30th, had a Franklin working in the office.
Absolutely.
Did you have it?
No.
How about you? Still in the holiday.
I'll mention it.
Melissa had to go back to school, they was teaching, and so I had to.
That was a great pick.
We went and saw Spider-Man, so I got all kinds of Spider-Man.
Good job.
You love your mom.
Yeah.
He is a great guy.
I really go back to being, I tell him, the way I asked him.
Rick Kills from right there.
Whenever we get to it, I always think about when I first started here, David Patton was the mayor officer. Yeah. And one year, well, I guess it was probably right before budget time, David came in and gave every commissioner these nice jackets from the sheriff's department. And Morris was clerk of county, and I think it was called Brian.
We just need to make that clear. It's some really
My favorite. I have my check.
That's what, can't take anything value over $25. At some point, you have to report.
Huh. $25 is pretty standard. I haven't heard the recipient.
Well, and I guess, you know, especially the law, that you have to, sometimes we can, but it's hard to do this for $25. But then we have to have somebody hire them, in the plant. Purchasing group has to come down and do that.
What they get in here, or just check the grand totals.
But the purchasing group is in the plant and all that.
They read the rules, they just want to get it.
That's pretty common. That's what we're doing now. Of course, back then, credit card.
Something about
I was
circulation.
the marketing group also when sales.
Right.
And so,
Right off the, system. Right. Yeah. You've been saying that for 12 years? Yeah. He's like, that's how my memory works there. See, that's just him wanting to be, not on the receiving end of the like that. I don't want to be he didn't fly with his own drugs.
Another world right now.
First line samples up the depth, third line, and then the prop line. You know, you always justification.
You gave each one of us.
Did they have enough hours?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
To keep with the one I have, I'm sure. I never. I keep it in my travel, so you have a computer.
Hey, because things change a little bit.
Yeah, great. I was tickled when I saw that
This one's missing this may be old to tonight.
I was still, you sort of figure where that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's in the
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal of this.
And
Absolutely.
Got your chickens.
I suggested to Derek, when Derek's district changed, he got into Derek's district.
Oh, so that's how that worked out.
Yeah, they have a lot of
He wasn't in Derek's
judges.
district before. When that
Oh,
changed.
so that's how that worked out. Good move there.
Talking about your appointment. Your P and Z appointment.
He originally wasn't in your district until the lines changed.
It was, I wasn't happy to be there. I didn't think you had told that. Yeah. He had most.
I actually had an outside conversation.
I was thinking he had a good portion down there, because they had some people down there talking about, well, I'm
know, I
for size, so.
What major metropolitan areas like that?
At the university and there.
These guys, I know we.
They had a lot of judges that day, that office.
They did. A lot of drugs.
Jokes.
Jokes, oh, jokes.
I talked, that's when some of them over there had some issues with the female, and I told them they need to talk to that.
That makes a lot of sense. I appreciate it.
Whenever somebody has a question, I give Commissioner Hurts.
I've been gonna call you all day.
That's fine, I've been busy too.
It's 2022. Right. No truer statement, Brian. Welcome to everybody to the Madison County Board of Commissioners Agenda Setting Work Session, January 3rd, 2022. 6 p.m. I'm going to start off with a quick chairman's report. I just jotted down a few things today to highlight some stuff that happened in 2021. Took me about an hour, but the chairman's office in 2021, we had face-to-face meetings with 277 different meetings that I proceeded either hosted or away in my office. That's a lot of meetings. When I kept saying, guys, it's been a busy year, 277 meetings took place in that office. All sitting board members have completed the required training through ACCG except for the newest member-elect, Mr. May, who was just elected in November. Huge accomplishment, and thank you, gentlemen, for being able to tidy that up right out of the gate. It says a lot about the commitment of our board. Several citizens of the county has been appointed to sit on various boards throughout the county and regional commissions. I want to go into a report from 911 that I received from Brennan Beard this morning. EMS calls for service was 4,617 for 2021. That's how many times an ambulance got called in 2021. Sheriff's Office call volume for service, 27,695 calls was made to the Sheriff's Office for service. Volunteer Fire Department calls was 566, almost 2 a day to one of our volunteer fire departments somewhere. Now that could be for first responders or fire, either one. Total calls for service at 911 were 38,371 times that phone rang for service. Not wrong numbers, just for service. Courthouse, this was the most surprising, it shocked everybody. The courthouse security interacted with a total of 63,755 people in a 1-year period. That's a lot of people in this building that those guys saw, checked, and protected us. I do have the breakdown, I think you have it in your report, that shows, you know, weapons collected, weapons returned, denials, all that fun stuff. But 63,755 people joined us this year. The road department spread 23,894 tons of gravel on a number of our 145 dirt roads while maintaining the other 456 paved miles of road in 2021. In 2021, the Madison County Government Office, along with other agencies, has applied for over $34 million in grant funding for the 2022 year. The county was awarded through grants and forms of federal through grants from federal government totaling nearly $6 million for 2021 and 2022. These funds will go directly into the county infrastructure projects. 2021 had a lot of unknown due to various strands of the ongoing COVID virus, the economy, and other situations not in our control. From a production standpoint within our county government, it was a very successful year. I could not be more prouder of all of our employees on a job well done. Last but not least, I would like to thank the Madison County citizens for the support they have shown this board through social media, through newspaper, through replies. I could literally tell you, I can count on one hand how many complaints I've had in Madison County this year. I've had 2 people in my office to complain. One of them was about masks. We don't get complaints anymore. We get people that advise us, hey, you may want to come look at something. We don't get complaints. That's turning the page of the old to the new, and I'm really, really proud of what this board was able to accomplish. I spoke with ACCG, Bill Toomey last week, who's sort of in charge of the HR side of this through ACCG, and when I told him that we went 12 months with a unanimous vote, he said that's unheard of in the state of Georgia, and I said, well, it's happened in Madison County. And he said, well, I will spread the news to other counties that it can be done. So, thank you. That's all I have for the chairman's report. Business involving guest, Mr. Brian Traylor, owner of Traylor Business Service Incorporated.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, young man?
I'm doing fine. I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
Well, this is a work session. You do not have to stand up to the microphone. If we can hear you and you can hear us, please feel free to inform us of what your company offers.
According to my wife, you should have no problem hearing me, because she's always saying, tone it down. But I'm sure I'm not the only husband here. Now, wives, I'm just teasing. Okay, ladies, wives, but I do have a loud mouth. We've been talking with your all's assessing office about the program that we have been doing since 1994. Can't believe it's, good Lord's taken care of us 27 years, 28 years. But he has. And we actually, you all were our 10th county out of 75 we have signed. You all were number 10. It was so cool. When we came in, you all had some problems with the assessing office. And I don't know if any of y'all even go back this far, but they had kind of cleaned house and brought some new people in. And they told us that you're probably not going to find a lot because of what had been going on before. Not a good job of doing the assessing, whether it's real estate or personal property. And we didn't find a lot. You know, we still found a ratio for every dollar y'all spent, we bring you $2 back. So that was good. The bottom line is getting the values right. It's not about making money, it's about getting the values right. And that's what we do. I worked for Cobb County for 4 years, and then I went to work for another firm out of Charlotte. Started in the Atlanta office, then they let me go. And it was a godsend because that's when I started my business. I get to feed my wife and daughter, and like I say, 27 years, we've had 75 counties, and we've been so blessed. Chuck came from Cobb County, and he's worked with us for 23 years. Right. And what we do is help the assessing offices in all of our client counties to do a better job on their personal property. It's the hardest to get done. Real estate, you all can go out and strap and measure and so forth, the buildings, the homes, whatever. Boats, aircraft, you have valuation booklets. You flip the page and see what kind it is and so forth. The personal property is movable. You take a construction company, you can't find any of their equipment. It's all over the place. So it's on the job. It's on the job sites. So, and that's their job. That's the way it works. So you have to go to the books. So we follow the Georgia Code, and we all have the same training. We've all been through the same classes as the people at the counties, and it's basically teaching you how to value personal property, and it's by the valuation method. You go to the books, see what the books show it has, you do walkthroughs of the businesses, you meet and greet the people and get some questions answered and so forth. But that's what we do. And I wasn't even gonna say that much. But I wanted to let you all know kinda who I am, what we've been doing, and how long it's lasted. We're not a come and goer type of thing. But we all were our number 10th county. I thought that was cool. I have one place in my phone that I keep them by order of signing instead of alphabetical. And it's in the back of my phone, but it lists by number, and you all were number 10. So I've handed out packets. I normally hand these out after I do a presentation, but in this case, we're kind of belly flopping in that we already did a proposal for you all. So you all seen the proposal, so that's why I went ahead and gave you this information. What's not in the proposal is the sample for a verification review on cell towers. It's in there, shows the kind of paperwork that we would present to you all and also to the taxpayer. We do all the work for the taxpayer with your all's help, so you all don't have to. We'll make copies of everything for you. You all have to sign it, stamp it, and mail it. But we'll have the envelopes prepared. We've all worked in your all's shoes in the assessing office. Like it or not, I'm not preaching a sermon for them right now, but they're overworked, underappreciated, and underpaid in any tax assessing office in the state of Georgia. So we do everything that we can to keep them from having to do it. Over the 27 years, our program has changed a lot because we'll find out certain little things. One piece of paper that we can develop something in Lotus, sorry, Lotus is old school, but that's what I grew up on. What's it called now? Excel. That we can do in Excel, and once we do it, now it's a benefit to all counties, so we can do it in all the counties. That's one less thing they have to do, and one of them was Sumter County. Joanne Spicer, she was the chief, and she asked me, could we do such and such? So I took a look at it. I'm not going to be able to find it now right off. But there's a form that she has to fill out and sign every time it goes from her to the tax commissioner. And I think I got it right here. On, yes, one page before you get to this obnoxious color, you'll see it's a memo for billing. We'd never done that before. I didn't know what all the chief appraiser or has to do before it sends to the tax commissioner. So she showed me one. We put this together. Now all the chief appraiser has to do is sign this, date it, and send it through. It just took us a little while to put it together, but it saves a lot of time now for every county we've done. So we're that kind of a company. We take whatever ideas. You may give us some great ideas, and we might be able to use some of them. Some of them we can't, or we've tried it and here's why it didn't work. But little things like that. We work as a team with the counties to help them according to the Georgia Code for tax assessing, which is a bad word. We call it valuations. But to get them back on track to where they should be. The state used to come and grade every county every 3 years. They write them up for any inefficiencies. And personal property was always one. Then they had 3 years to correct that. Ever since was 2008 when things started really getting tight and the economy was down and the numbers were up this way and that way, and so the state started cutting back staff, and so they don't go out as often and grade the counties. They can tell you, whoops, you're not bad. They can tell you better than I can how often they come out and how much writing up they'll do, but we got a lot of contracts during that point because the personal property still wasn't up to par as the real estate was. So that means as a homeowner, you're really paying more than you should. Your value's right, but your millage rate has to be raised in order to make the budget gel because the business accounts aren't all paying their fair share. And they don't know that they aren't. And they probably aren't on purpose. It's a very complex thing on what to file, what you're taxed on, and so forth. I'm sorry, I got my eyes caught on your traffic light. I got a friend of mine who's got a big one. So anyhow, that's kind of what all we do. We work with tax assessing offices throughout Georgia and have been very blessed by it and would love to work with you guys again. Since you all number 10 on our list, we appreciate that.
I know there were several questions that this board had earlier, and I'll start out with one, and they can chime in with the questions that they have amongst yourselves.
That'd be great.
Robin had mentioned that this was required by the state to be done X amount of years, every so many years.
supposed to be every 3 years. But it's, I don't know if I want to say it's not written. When we started this, we did, some counties wanted to do it on a 5-year program. They being the assessors, I'm not thumbing anybody back there, but you know who I'm talking about. They normally abide based on what you all will supply them financially to their budget. We think a 3, 4, 5 year is the best program. We've had some counties want to do it shorter than that. Now, money-wise, sure, go ahead, but no, I'm about public relations, and I think we've been blessed. I know I've been blessed, because we try to think of the taxpayer first, because I am one, and you all are one. You work as commissioners, they work as assessors, but they're still human beings. They still have a home, they still have property, so they still pay property tax just like everyone. You got to think of the people first, then the law that has to be done, and try to make that a happy gel. And that's not an easy thing to do, I'll tell you that personally. I already told them I had a gun pulled on me once, and that's the truth, but it was a joke at the time, but the guy I was with didn't know that, and I thought he was going to have a heart attack. Sorry. But the idea is to try to make all 3 come to jail, and it can be done. Now, there's every county, I'll tell them, you're going to have some people where I'm not going to get you upset. If you don't want us to do this when I come out, no problem. I'll make some notes, and I'll turn this back over to the county. And that person will then say, well, what are they going to do about it? I said, well, they'll probably have to subpoena the records, because that's what's required by law. And here's a sheet of the law. And then they normally start getting softer based on how we talk to them. Okay, what do you want? And blah, blah, blah. But there has been some times where we won't get the taxpayer ruffled. We'll let them do it. And they're not going to ruffle their feathers. They're just going to turn over to either sending a subpoena or talking with the county attorney. Because everyone needs to be treated the same, fairly, professionally, and adequately to get the right numbers, so they're not taxed more than they should be. Right now, in most counties, the people that own real estate are being taxed a little bit more than they should, because the millage rate has to be raised to make your all's numbers gel out to the end. That's the way it works. I mean, that's just the way government works. And the sheet you all have that shows, I praise the Lord when I see these things. Used to have one sheet front and back. Now it's 2 sheets front and back. But this shows all the counties that we've done over the years. And you'll see a lot of them that will say banks, banks 2, banks 3. What that is we've done banks, and we've done their full program. And when I say that, I'm pointing back to her back there. We wouldn't do every single account. We would suggest, you all call the shots, but we would suggest not doing every single account in your county, because the smaller ones, we can train her, take her out with us. It's not training by the book. It's taking out with us, and she sees what all we do, how we do it, how we talk to them, how we treat them, all this stuff. But she learns firsthand that way. Then she can do the smaller ones. Saves you a lot of money. One county wanted us to do them, and we did them all. But the thing is, even if we had a big discovery, you still wouldn't pay for the cost of doing that size 1 audit. And I said the word audit. See, that's what they are. But I normally don't say that. It's kind of an accountant's word that sometimes comes out. But so it's best to say, okay, out of all your size 1s, we'll do maybe the top 50, the biggest 50, or some that you know are a lot smaller than that that really shouldn't be. Somebody's never filed or whatever. We work with the county when we get to that issue. So that's another thing. We also have different ways of doing them. You don't do all the small ones first or all the big ones first. I've gone way past answering your question, I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
My wife says I ramble a lot, and I do, but it's not useless rambling anyhow. But we do big ones and small ones at the same time. So you're not picking the big guys first or the little guys first. You're not working this way or that way. You're doing like this. And that makes it more fair and more understanding. If you own a huge company, or you think, oh, well, they're hitting the big guys. You own a small company, but we're doing you two at the same time. So now it seems more fair. And it's my opinion, but most counties agree to that. And now I don't remember what your question was, but I think I answered it.
You did.
And some. Sorry.
I may ask, in a county that doesn't require business licenses or occupational tax certificates, how do you address who's in business and who's not?
It's a good question. We don't go out, we can, but we don't go out. When I was at Cobb County, we'd go out and we'd look for businesses and check our list. And we would find businesses, hey, that one doesn't have a business. I mean, it's not even on here, so apparently they didn't get the business license, or else we would have it. So we, in-house, would go out and do that. That's what your in-house people are going to do. It's hard to keep up, but even without business license in a small county, you can go door to door, drive around, see, look for businesses, look at your tax digest. If you say, whoa, I don't have this one here. Stop in, talk to them, find out what's going on. It's best for us not to do that, simply because we don't live here. It would cost you more for us to have to do that just to find them, because that would take a lot of hours. Where you all live here, you sing with people at church that you know that has a business, or you see them at the grocery store, and it's just a simpler process when you all got the books, the people, and the businesses all here. To get into their records and to do the review on them, that takes more experience and more thinking. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We've been asked that by a lot of counties, and I said, well, we can, but here's what it's going to cost. And it's just not reasonable. But it's an expensive thing to do if you're not right here all the time.
Related but unrelated, how many counties do you do that do not issue business license?
That one I could not tell you.
That many of them, or there's that few of them?
No, I don't know.
I would say that few. Yeah.
I really don't know. It's never been that much of a question to me. Only thing about the business license, I know I got to fill out 2 of them a year. One for my business and one because I own the building. But no, it's something I've never asked because it really doesn't pertain to anything I do, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Chair, I think maybe you had a question the other night. I don't remember. I know you asked Robin the question. But Robin, what's some of the questions that you've been dealing with?
Probably if Brian could go through how to handle public relations with the citizens in the county.
Yeah, I think he just
Public relations.
How we handle it?
Yeah.
With meeting with the Chamber of Commerce. And
Oh, okay.
and so,
What we suggest most counties do, and it works rather well, and I got to give the credit to a chief appraiser, Russell Johnson, down in Sumter County at the time. He was giving us accounts to do, and they were all county accounts that were located outside of the county, like a Walmart or a Lowe's, or, something like that, to where they had these stores located in that county, but their headquarters were elsewhere. So he gave us about 20 of them to do. And then finally I asked him, I said, what, I'm concerned here. He said, just trust me. So, and you got to know Cricket Johnson, he's a hoot. Old Vietnam veteran, very, very nice guy. So then after that, he scheduled me to speak at a Rotary Club. They had a luncheon. Everybody sat someplace, so we put together a little one-page thing. I know it sounds crazy, but I put it on blue. It was the county's letterhead, but it was blue letterhead. Blue's supposed to be more soothing. Well, it can't hurt, right? You might as well try it. And we put it at each dinner plate. So then when I get up to speak, which is 10, 12 minutes, and then I leave another 10 minutes open for questions, I go through the whole process of what we'll be doing. During that time, I was able to say, well, we've done 15 or 20 reviews already, and I'm sure none of y'all have heard any complaints. Totally 100% true. And that's where my light came on what Russell's idea was, because it was true. So that put everybody that was at that Rotary meeting at peace, and it was a big Rotary meeting. So they realized that if they're out doing reviews from the assessing office, we haven't heard any complaints about this. This is no big deal. And that word spread quickly, and the program went fine. So we have used what he taught us ever since then. So, you know, if the counties want us to. A lot of counties don't, and that's fine. But that's what we would do, is do some of your larger, not necessarily larger, but some of your out-of-county corporate businesses, like some of them I mentioned. And then get your biggest club. I see a lot of flags, so a lot of them have been meeting here. It looks like a Rotary, a Kiwanis, or, you know, Lions Club, whatever is the biggest one. And have you all schedule us a meeting there. And we have lunch with them, and we meet them and so forth. We put the little sheet of paper on the plates, and then, you know, after the guy rings the bell and all that, we come up, and we do a quick talk, and it's a quick talk. But we like to leave it open for them to ask us questions. Then if they don't, well, they had their chance. And that's the biggest thing, giving the taxpayer his chance to voice his opinion and so forth. And then we leave. Most of those pieces of paper that we hand out are still sitting there, but they've had a chance to take that and read about too. So that's where we get into helping the public relations. We also have a newspaper article. When that first local is being done and that Rotary Club meeting is getting set up, we have them put that newspaper article in the paper. Whether it's a weekly paper, daily, whatever, we have them run 1 or 2 weeks. It's just more public relations, getting the word out. The tax assessing business for so long has been looked at as a bad thing. Evil people, wanting your money, raise your millage rates, raise your value. And they're not. They just got a stinking job to do. That's the bottom line. They're great folks. And they just got a job, and you're not going to like it if we raise your taxes. Well, we're not raising your taxes. We're just getting the values where they should be. Then you multiply that times the millage rate, and that's what makes up your taxes. So, and that's all we do. We are a valuation company that gets the values correct on all the businesses that we review. And then we help the county with anything they ever need, because that's what we're there for. And we did it a long time. Gosh, I wish I had a better memory. I'd tell you who the chief and personal property lady was. She's been running out of a lot of counties though, so I'm going to leave her next. She was in Hart County before their big boom, which is probably about 5, 6, 7, no gosh, 8 years. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that public relations has always been the hallmark of our company, and the more we can explain to the taxpayer, get to meet them on the front end, the better success we have. Because we found out all through the state of Georgia, all the businesses talk to each other. It's just that simple. Everybody's a neighbor in the small county, and so the word gets out. And if we put our best foot forward right from the beginning, usually the program is very successful, and little or no complaints.
If you look through that book, you'll notice there's a lot of letters that we send out for the taxpayer. We had one chief appraiser that told me he doesn't want this one, doesn't want this one, doesn't want this one. And so we sat down and had a come to Jesus meeting, as my wife calls it. And I said, well, I'll agree to not sending that one and this one out. But if you don't want to send these two out, you don't want to use our firm. Simple as that. I don't want the bad PR you're going to get back. It's not worth it. God will bless us with another county in lieu of you. So he agreed with me, and sweet old man, he's passed on now, but he agreed with me, and you know, we can get, the whole idea is, if you're our, sign back with you all, we set the program up, but we have paperwork and so forth that's in between our office and your all's office to find out exactly how do you want to handle this, and we put that in our program, our computer program. And so it's done according to your all's exact requests and desires. It's still majority like every other county contract we have, but there'll be certain tweaks that will apply just to your county on how much you want to go back on this amount or so forth. But it's just, you know, it's been successful so far, and we like changes when they're good changes, but if it's a change I don't think it's going to be good, I'll be honest with you and I'll explain why, and then we'll work something out. But my daddy always taught me if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
From some of the numbers I was looking at on the cell tower situation, that's probably the most astronomical thing ever missed.
Yeah.
is cell tower sales. I mean, I was looking at some of the numbers here that they were that far undervalued.
I'm gonna get too close, but I wanna approach you, just since you asked that. When we have a marketing booth somewhere, at ACCG, for example, we'll give those out. Now, pull up the first one there that you were looking at. It's alphabetical, so it should be
Yeah.
Banks County?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll show them, that's a total, but you don't know if I just put those numbers in there. So we'll show you this. And this shows Banks County, it shows the exact business name. And it ties with this, but this one has all the businesses taken out. We don't have to do that, but if I owned a business, I'd prefer not to have so much advertised.
I understand.
So, but we keep these at a booth to show you that those numbers are real, and here, and if you flip back to the end of Banks, you'll see that the total is back there somewhere. See how the total of each one? So, yes.
I think each one of us as a board member, would say, we've all got different ideas of what the perception of it is. For me, it is things like cell towers and stuff like that. That side of it, not so much John Smith, the farmer, or so-and-so, the plumber, vice versa. It's more of the larger corporations that, Mr. Baker and his office staff do not know how to value.
Yeah.
And one thing I've heard different here tonight is the fact that you're actually gonna be training her during this time, so we'll have an on-staff person
Yes.
in case we go this route on the own, because right now we have nobody. Right now, a cell tower is, I guess, stated value.
Right, because we don't have access to those. We cannot go onto those properties. Like, it's because they're all fenced off. It's not like we can just go in and nosy around, because they transfer their properties to different, companies all the time. So what they give us is what I put in the system. I have no idea how to do it myself.
We have roughly how many in the county?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Uh,
But one
15.
tower could have, 6 or 7 carriers on it.
But that right there though,
But now the cell towers is not something that's included in the proposal that was given to them.
Let me stop you there, man. The contract doesn't state any number of accounts or any type of accounts. All it does, it shows for each size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it costs this, this, and this. That's all it states. Then it has the jargon of, if you give us an account, we're obligated to finish it, and you're obligated to pay, and stuff like that. The contract actually was in the big proposal. But it doesn't state, in other words, you're not committed when you sign a contract to giving us anything. And we had one contract that was signed for 2 years without giving us one account. I finally said, are you ever going to give us something to work on? And then all commissioners were like, why haven't we? And that's when the chief appraiser kind of got scolded. But, and I've just butted in there to try to answer that before we all said, no, wait a minute, is it going to cost more if we didn't include the cell towers in there or something? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Those early proposal things, they were just to give you a ballpark. Just a ballpark. And if you looked at this thing here, sorry, I'm a little slow, I'm trying to hurry.
Sorry.
There's a place on here where it says, accounts, fair market value, cost, projected revenue. See that part?
Yeah.
On almost all of them, not all of them, but almost all of them, that projected is less than the actual. And now let's go back to this. When I gave you a projection here, that's what that column means. So when I say it should be this was, I'm trying to be conservative. And you'll see if you look through all these, I normally am conservative. Because I don't want to be blowing smoke. And sometimes it ends up being blown smoke, but not because I try. I'm just trying to get it as close as I can without overshooting it. But that's why that one column there is to show you that the actual revenue is almost always higher than the projected revenue. Does that make any sense?
So just to be sure, the contract, the rates and all of that apply to the cell towers as well. It's just a matter of placing an order with you to do it.
It's a business.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything that's a business.
Okay.
And it's funny, it wasn't at the time, but 2 of our counties had hired somebody to do cell tower. I said, why would you do that? well, we thought that was different. I said, what kind of report did they turn in? A business personal property report. I said, okay, that's us. And that company that had signed them, ended up getting a bad name, not going to mention any names, but 2 or 3 counties quit paying them. And one county was, well, that's, it was going to court, I don't know if it did or not, and I'm not even going to mention the county. But the bottom line is, it was heartbreaking to me because it's like it's business personal property. So why wouldn't we do it? You know, whether it's a hospital, Chuck done solar farms. I went and visited the first one that Barack Obama, is it? I forget. Okay. But he visited and did the ribbon cutting down in Florida. I got to do it with the commissioners down there. I got to do a plant tour of that. And it was so awesome. We asked some questions. You know, I'm asking questions for valuing and doing reviews. And, you know, all those windows, they'll last 25 years. Oh, that will last, you know, I'm just jotting all this down. So I said, yeah, we've got 3 or 4 getting ready to start up in Georgia, and I'll know now, you know. So that was pretty interesting. But, man, I jumped ships. But
Well, the reason I'd ask is because, obviously our office is primarily residential. That's just what we do. We can do the minimal businesses, the small mom and pop stores based off stated. But then you have the solar farm. I think Oglethorpe County is fixing to get this massive solar farm going down there. Who values that solar farm? We don't collect a penny off of it that I know of. Right, Robin?
were they set up in some kind of a...
I mean, I don't know.
They're set up as, I think it's part of Georgia Power, isn't it, Frank?
Is it?
Well,
Not necessarily using it. I'm just talking about a topic like that. If we had things like that, we don't have a way to do it.
Yeah, well, we would.
And it's unfair to taxpayers that looks at their 2-bedroom house and says, my tax bill's $1,100 when it could potentially have been $900 had we have had those offsets.
That's you just summed up the whole point of why we started business. It's because, and I own a business. I don't want to pay more than I have to, but I don't want to have to pay more than I have to on my home. And I know homes are more correctly valued as a whole in any county, not just in Georgia, than the businesses are, because assets can be anywhere. You know, it's just hard to put your hand on when you're an in-house appraisal staff. It's just the way it is. So.
Like Brian said, we're able to work with any corporation, a small one, the most, you know, the large, we work with the largest corporations in Georgia and audited them. We, under the official code of Georgia annotated, we're allowed to get all of the financial statements that underlie all the assets they own that we value. And our review work, our audit work, we use these documents that will stand up in court. I mean, you know, it's a really solid audit program, and if the company's accountant or the company's CPA, once they see our work, it's all based on the legal financial documents of the company. So it'll stand up in court. It'll stand up in the county. And everybody's treated the same.
That reminds me of a question, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I think there's just as with most experts, there's a separate rate sheet if you have to appear to testify for either a Board of Equalization or a Superior Court hearing, is that right?
For who?
For the Board of Assessors, if there's an appeal. Or is that...
Extra charge to them? Or
Right.
us, you mean?
Yeah, extra charge.
Oh, we don't charge extra.
You don't charge extra, okay.
The fee for that review includes a BOA appeal, or BOE appeal,
Okay.
or court case.
Okay.
We're pretty cheap. But now here's the thing. We're about public relations. And I know I've said that a lot. But we kind of, don't want to offend anybody, but I got to say what I got to say. Kind of got prayed into existence by our old Sunday school class at Mount Perrin North. And I'm pretty anal. And if you come out and do some yard work in my house, you better do it right. I expect to pay you right. I want the job done right. And so if I never had a business going before, so I thought, you know, I could do this to where if I'm sitting in Robin's seat, I'm going to be happy. And it's going to take a lot to make me happy. But I also want to do it in a godly way. So that's kind of the two things that I wanted to make sure. One, that I'm doing it in a godly way, and two, that I would be satisfied. And that's kind of been the focus of our business ever since.
Do you end up having to testify at many BOE or even further Superior Court appeals, or do they typically resolve?
BOEs, what do we have a year on those? Maybe 20, 15?
At least.
Well, court,
We've been to court, yeah, maybe 3 times, 4 times in the last 20 years. We work with the county attorneys, providing enough information where they can work between the company's attorneys and maybe come to a negotiated settlement that's fair for the county. Obviously, if we go to court, it's going to be a financial drain on us, but we have all the resources in our audit to present that the attorneys can use and hopefully work out a settlement. And there's a pre-trial hearing, and we try to make sure that we settle there, or with the BOE if the BOE is understanding of the appeal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good.
That's a good point though. One of the questions that we have on the paperwork that we give the county, that the lady sends to the county to get started up and so forth, is about how much do you want to consider a clean account. If we discover 3X, and you all say, well, anything over, or anything less than 4X, just send it through as a clean account. We'll send the paperwork still to the county, so they still have, the assessor's office still have all the right numbers to put in there for the future years. But it's such a small amount, it would cost you all more to send a tax bill out and all, so we'll send it through as clean. Sometimes you get a taxpayer call, and he knows he's lost the war, but he just wants to win a battle. Part of what we find out up front with the county is what can we do? How much leeway do we have on obsolescence on inventory? So we'll say, well, let me call the county and see what we can do. Okay, so I hang up with the taxpayer. Okay, I've already called the county, but I give them a few minutes or an hour, and I'll call the taxpayer back. I already have this information from the county. So I'll call them back. I said, well, they said the best they can do is knock 3% off your inventory, if you'll drop the appeal for that. And, that's the way we settle. Well, they'll say, okay, I can do that. Let's see, we've already got that information up front, so we didn't have to turn around and call the county. We knocked 3% off their inventory, sent it on through. Taxpayer's happy because he got something in, that he wants. 3% is nothing in the overall realm of things when you add up that account. It's nothing, but it made the man happy because he knew we were working with him. He knew they were working with him. And that's all everybody wants, is just give you a fair shot,
In the same regard, we let the taxpayer know, especially if he's got a lot of questions, that the program works both ways. If that taxpayer is being over-assessed and the financial records show that, yes, in fact, he is being over-assessed, he'll get a tax credit going forward or a refund. And that's what makes the program fair. And we require the counties to honor that.
That is one thing. I had one county didn't want to do that. I said, fine, there's other companies, go for them. Ain't gonna happen, not with us. It's fair both ways.
You mentioned a minute ago, some of the OCGA stuff. The legalities of y'all getting that information is the same that's afforded to us. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We're using you as a consultant under the OCGA versus us doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, like if something's fenced off or whatnot, y'all can't just barge in. You've got to come back, get us get a subpoena and whatnot, and and issue it through. So the fact that y'all are doing it would be the same process, quote unquote, our team would do it if we had the experience to do so.
We're a third party going out on your behalf, and the law states that is a legal process, yes.
Now, the database that you built for that, the claim that you're saying is, a lot of governments don't have the ability to do a lot of the higher end type business, whether to go in and count every bin of nuts and bolts or, probably one of the biggest taxpayers in our county now is a couple years old. What experience and what's the databases that y'all pull off to do an evaluation on power plant?
Well, we start with the books, because all businesses have a set of books, and they're going to do everything they can to make their expenses as large as they can, which reduces their profit. Therefore, the more assets that they put on there that they're depreciating, that they are depreciating out, all the expenses and so forth. It's all going to be on there. That's a wise businessman. Well, those records are going to show us that. Whether it's, you know, when we go through the accounts and say, okay, you know, how do you use this account? We'll ask them, they'll explain to us. Draw a line through it, or we'll circle it, you know, as we go through this with them. But that's where it starts, is their financial records. A business doesn't start, and the first thing he thinks of is, you know, how can I hide my assets because I'm going to have to file a personal property report. That's the last thing they think of. I mean, obviously, a lot of them don't even know that they have to until it's past time. It's like, oh, I got to fill out one of those things. They're in it to make a profit, to, you know, make ends meet and then make a profit. And so it didn't mean to over answer your question or simplify it, but that's the bottom line. If we start with the accounting records, make sure all those records tie to each other, and or federal income tax is the same. Then we, you know, before we do that, or after we do that, depends on which we get first, we do a walkthrough of the business. Just look around at it. Behind the space, whether it's a factory, it's got all kinds of different things. It's fun. If you've ever been through the business that we've been through, it's interesting. But that's kind of where you start. Then you go from there. When you see some weird accounting records or something, had one that just didn't seem to gel. These two pieces of things didn't work. The depreciation schedule didn't gel to the trial balance. Well, what had happened, they had a tax rep company that took their depreciation schedule, a lot of work, and deleted every fourth asset and printed it all out. And it looked perfect. It was just beautiful, except it didn't tie to this. And so we kept going with them, And then finally, we got one of the head people from the business, not their accountant or their tax rep, but from the business. I said, well, here's the problem. It shows here that, you know, on your depreciation schedule, this number, and it doesn't tie to this. He says, well, which are you looking at? I said, well, it's dated so-and-so. He says, I'm looking at that too. I said, all right, flip over to the back page, and it says this number. He said, I just flipped over, and it doesn't say that number. So we started comparing nuts and bolts. I said, let's just start off with the first 5 or 10 assets. Make it simple. So we started doing that, and that's when we figured out he was so upset. Because he'd hired crooks, basically, to defend him. And they got fired immediately. And they were very apologetic to us, although they still had to pay back tax. $400,000. But that's the way it goes. And he wasn't upset about it. He was ashamed. He really was. And you fired up mad because he had been paying them because they get paid off of what they save them. So they were cheating for that company to get that company to pay them. Then they got hit with a big back taxing because they weren't reporting it right. See how the world gets to a really crazy mess.
So one of the things you started out with a minute ago was public relations.
Yes.
And as every one of us here is in the public relation business, that's why we're here. But we're also dubbed with the sore duty of tax collection and disbursement. For myself, and I would say the rest of the members here, is the conception of, and how I'm hearing this is to level the playing field between, you know, we've got a county of 30,000 people. 30,000 people paying taxes. We got a county of 1,500 businesses. Let's just say all the mom and pops added up. 200 businesses, 500 businesses, whatever you want to call it. Well, we got to make sure that that playing field for those tax-paying homeowners matches the one for the business, all while in the public relations business are trying to attract new businesses without setting a nuance to we're anti-business, because this is one of the key things that we've practiced this year in 2021 is, hey, Madison County's open for business, please come. And I know that's weighed on several people's mind, including the Board of Education, is, hey, how is this going to look to a new business? Now, factoring in something I hadn't thought of was the potential of lowering it and or offsetting the homeowner's taxes to a better rate, and then clearly learning and then teaching us to be able to do it ourselves. It sounds a whole lot more advertising, or a lot more appetizing than it did originally, because as you stated, public relations is how you get it done, but for us, it's also how we defend it.
Exactly. We've had some counties, lower the millage rate for the next couple of years. I like that. We've had one county advertise, you know, because everybody asks, oh yeah, the county commissioner's getting all this money, what are we gonna do with it? Well, they advertised it. They were rebuilding their old, or kind of refurbishing their old county courthouse, which was kind of like your all's. It's sitting out there real pretty, you know, to be viewed. So a lot of counties have, and a lot of them don't say a thing about it. It's just business as usual. But, so say somebody came and said, well, your all's county gonna do this, well, we'll find another county. That's just our counties, okay? There's other businesses that are doing all the rest of them. Well, not all the rest of them, but most of the rest of them. It's going to be done. It's going to be done by somebody sooner or later, and it's one of those things that, you know, no one likes it, but it's got to be done, just like you said. Being a commissioner is a tough job. I spent years and years at your all's ACCG in Savannah every year, and to hear some of the stuff y'all got to deal with and put up with, and I sit through so many commissioner meetings. Some of them I go to from one county way after we signed contracts. But they were a small county, and they liked some of the ideas I had, so we would talk, and it was kind of fun, but very interesting. So it's, like I say, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. And but we try to do it to where I can sleep at night and not worry about anything. I let the good Lord take care of our business, and then I don't have to worry about anything else. You're going to offend a few people no matter what you say or do. Like I said, some of the biggest discoveries we've had, the people were very appreciative, thankful to us, and some of the ones we gave money back still weren't happy. That's life. That's what it's supposed to be.
Anyone have any other questions? Sir, thank you for your time. Sir, thank you for your time. We appreciate the clarification and the explanation on a lot of the things that we had tonight. I know I done most of the asking questions, but we got the point across. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, and I apologize for rambling. I know I did. If I wasn't here, my wife would say that, so I'm speaking for her too. And that's for everyone that's married. I love my wife. She's a sweetie. I really am. I understand.
Robin, you have one other item on tonight as far as the appointment. You won't need to be here for that because it's a reappointment,
Right.
unless you see a problem. Okay.
No, he's happy.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Take
Thank you very
care.
much.
I appreciate all the extra information also, guys. Thank you so much.
You got my cell number. Feel free to call anytime.
Thank you.
All right. Hearing and actions on zoning matters. Mr. Canola Scott. Well, Paul, yes, I'm sorry. On the agenda, it says Paul Walton, City of Hull. He's not going to be able to be with us. He got in town late, and he told me he would just stick it on the next work session in February. So, hearing and zoning matters.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioners. We have 7 rezone requests tonight, and have quite a few people here probably for the public hearing. I will try to make it brief as to what we have done and what the planning and zoning are going to make their recommendations to you on these rezone requests. The first one was for Tim Seymour, who was representing the property of the Dilworth family, LP. He is requesting to rezone 12.61 acres property from B to R3 to allow townhomes with 3 units each. The property is located at the corner of Highway 72 and Foot McCullough Road on
on map 59, parcel 8 in District 5. There was no one there to speak in opposition to this rezone request. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 to approve.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Seymour, would you like to step forward, sir? Is these similar to, state your name and address for the record, please?
Tim Seymour, 25 9th Street, Carlton.
Thank you. These similar to what you're doing in Comer currently?
They are. We've got, plans to build the same, townhome triplexes, same layout.
You'll get, how many you'll end up with on this?
Be a total of 8 buildings, 24 units.
8 buildings, 24 units. Any questions, gentlemen?
Close public hearing,
Yeah, we can. I just didn't know if you wanted any questions for him while he's up front. It's still a work session, but we'll vote.
Well, we're in the public hearing portion now, so we'll hear from Mr. Seymour has anything else he wants to say, and then if there's anybody else who wants to speak in favor, and then we'll hear from those in opposition, if any.
Pretty much if you're familiar with the ones that we're wrapping up on in Comer right now, it's 2-story triplex units. They're all stick framed, hardy plank siding. There are a lot of trees on that property. These being 1.5 acre, minimum size lots. We are going to leave tree buffers as much as possible. There will be a tree buffer across 72. There'll also be a pretty large tree buffer between the residential subdivision behind there and this newly developed property. As I'm sure you've seen on the plan, the road will come in off of McClellan Road. There'll be townhomes to the right and left, total of 8 buildings, 24 units.
What about your water and septic plans?
Septic plans are not ready yet. It is county water, so we will come in off of that. I think there's a 8-inch main out there now, so we'll come in with that county water. But I don't have any septic tank plans in my hands right now. I do know we got good soil work over there. I just don't have any formal septic tank plans.
Which would restrict your building?
It would, yes.
These would be, how many bedroom units?
2 and 3.
All right, I'll ask, is there anyone, that's good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to Mr. Seymour's request? Is there anyone here to speak for Mr. Seymour's request? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing, open special session. Canolas, this does meet all the qualifications, correct?
Yes, we've all gone on for it.
I thought you said it proved and everything, okay. I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny Mr. Seymour's request.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion.
Yeah, and the reason I did that, I know what you're doing in Comer, and I think it looks.
It's all in the back corner.
No, so, I like the unit that you're building. Personally, it's my opinion, and I think from those that I've heard from, one, from a B zone right there on the main highway, that's residential to me is not appropriate, and I'm concerned with that being a residential area. I know that residential is behind it, but that's the buffer between the highway is that B zone. And the other thing that just really concerns me is you got 8 lots, 3 units per lot, that's 24 dwelling units, so you got 48 to 72 beds, and, well, I'm not sure if you'll get that many or not, after, final design is done or not. That density, the creation of that much density in that area and next to that adjoining area is just, it's too much for what I think where I think the county and what I think I've heard people call me want to talk about. So it is too much in that spot. So that's my position.
I think it's fairly similar. I hesitate to get in another situation. Don't like to be in situations where we overturn or at least we're in opposition to what the Planning Commission recommends. But on a major subdivision, currently our minimum lot size is 2 acres, and you're looking at these essentially be a half acre per unit. Now, in my mind, again, we've talked plenty about the comprehensive plan, and I'm anxious for us to get started on that. In my mind, at some point, this may be considered a high density residential area, assuming, again, if it's served with some sort of municipal water and sewer system. So you're talking about half acre lots within the absence of a sewer system. That is a concern to me. At some point in time, we're ready to address this. I think this is probably a kind of development that's attractive. But for me, where we are now with the comprehensive plan, or in the absence of the update that we're looking for, I'm hesitant for this density in this area.
Yes, my concerns here would be, I believe I would be correct in saying that we already have traffic issues. We're putting McClellan dumps on to Highway 72. We don't control what they do on Highway 72. There's not a red light there to facilitate access on and off of there. Until that's addressed, I believe we'd just be compounding some problems.
Well, I spoke with Mr. Seymour on this topic, and that issue of traffic was addressed between myself and him. And I'd asked about the traffic, and I know there's been a call for a red light there and several accidents. And Mr. Seymour had stated, 43, what did y'all come up with, 43? 2 cars go home, 86 versus a gas station that could potentially have 300 or 400 or 500 cars a day going in and out of it on that particular same location. So he did justify the traffic would probably be less traffic than had it had a business there. But just so y'all know that I did let them know, we did convey about that. And it did make sense that there probably is less traffic with homes there in and out twice a day versus a rotating business. If you've probably done a traffic count on the quick trip right beside it, I would say that they have much higher traffic count at that intersection now. That intersection does need some attention, don't get me wrong, either way. No matter what way we do it, it still needs addressing.
But traditionally during the engineering studies and stuff, they take into account time of day and whatnot. There's a total vehicle count per day is one thing versus the time of day when people come and go. And I think the ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers, I think they use it's either 8 or 10 trips per day per unit. So it's not just 2 cars coming in and out. It's, you assume a car leaves, it comes home, it goes to the grocery store, it goes back and drops the kids off. There's a lot more to it than that. So I'm not going to get into studying what could be versus not be, but I think it leads credence a little bit of the conversation that, the gas station across the street operates during a lot larger time frame than just a concentrated area. So there's some nuances to that traffic engineers look at. So just, again, I think it's too much to me at that particular spot on a potential, or a B zone that has a potential for business use.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Several years ago, when Mr. Anderson Dilworth obtained this piece of property, he owns Dill's Grocery in Royston, that I know most of you are familiar with. He was going to put a store on this piece of property, And the reason that store is not sitting there today is because the state would not put a red light there. So the traffic study was done, and they didn't see that it needed one. So he saw that it did for his business. So that's why it's been sitting vacant all these years.
Yeah, the only reason I brought that up was to address the comment that we had that conversation about the traffic count. That was the only reason I brought that up. Any other discussion, gentlemen?
I'll just say traffic signals and stop signs, whatnot, they go through a large scrutiny, and especially through the state. So it can be more dangerous if you put a signal in where it's not warranted. So it's a nuance between engineering discussion versus, you know, the I'll say general public. So it's a nuanced discussion.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, Dennis?
No. The motion to deny.
Motion to deny.
Yeah, it's a motion. Second.
So a yes vote would be to deny the rezone.
Okay, a yes to deny.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Motion carries.
Before we leave that one, just so the board know, all of these questions were asked and discussed about the traffic and that kind of stuff. But, again, we're on the recommending board, that was our recommendation.
Yes, sir.
The second public hearing was for Mr. Park, and I apologize, but I don't want to mess his name up, so his last name is Park, who is requesting a conditional use permit for a dog kennel of at least 25 breeding dogs. The property is located at 861 Hannah Creek Church Road on map 75, parcel 5 in District 4. There was no one there to speak in opposition, although there was a letter sent by a resident of that area expressing his concerns. I think all of you got that letter. If you do not, I have a copy of it. For anybody that did not.
No, sir, I received it.
I'll take it from the packet.
Everybody got it?
It was an email that was sent to me.
Yeah. Okay, we'll make sure everybody had at least an opportunity to read his email. The vote of planning and zoning was 4-0 to deny. 4-0 to deny.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this rezone?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for allowing us to speak this evening. I'm David Jordan. Mr. Park, Mr. Kyung-Ho Park has asked me to represent him this evening. And I realize that the zoning committee had voted this down. I wish that Mr. Park had got to me earlier so that I could have clarified some issues that the board made some decisions on. I don't know if you have the application in front of you, but the map that was used, the site map, was hand-drawn and very ill-prepared, I think, by the applicant. Also, the communication breakdown and the ability to communicate and answer questions was not very well handled. At least he had someone who tried to interpret for him, but who was also Korean, who couldn't translate well. I watched the video that was recorded, and I appreciate you guys recording those videos. It helped me quite a bit to understand what was discussed. I did listen and did not get a copy of the letter, but did hear the reading of the letter, and the concern of the letter from that one individual was that, the main thing was he liked to sleep out at night outside, and that woke him sometimes. The dogs barking would wake him. And a number of other concerns that were really overstated. I think this one individual who sent this letter was really exaggerated in the concern. I have given you a packet tonight that has 5 or 6 letters of support from the neighbors, and would like to kind of, if I could, what is my time allowed here?
Go right ahead.
Okay. So let me just step back and talk about a little history about Mr. Park. Mr. Park moved here, bought this piece of property in May of 2017. His intent was to be permanent here, to be in agriculture, to raise golden retrievers and provide them to the Atlanta market, Metro Atlanta, all over. He started out in 2017 with about 8 adults, and first time 3. So he started out small, started growing at about 2017, 2018, at 9. And so his intent was this to be his livelihood. His intent was to have an agricultural place to raise these dogs and be productive his whole livelihood. The zoning board, in reviewing this material, asked a lot of questions about the puppies and the concern there could be several hundred dogs on this property, and that's just not the case. That is not the case at all. Not with what he has developed there on the 14 acres. In 2017, early 2018, he built kennels behind his house, and those kennels house the adult dogs. There are some kennels in the front of his house which house the puppies. There's also a kennel showroom called a litter room. I think that was also misunderstood in the zoning review board's meeting. They thought the litter was where they kept like animal waste. It's not that type of litter. It's a puppy litter room. It's where potential buyers come in. They look at the dogs and they go whether they want to buy these puppies or not for market. And so that's what the litter room is. Only puppies. They don't house these dogs in the front. This is just a showroom on the front of the house. So most of the dog activity is behind the home. So I've included some Google Maps in your packet to kind of give you an idea of the layout of the property. If I can find my own here. So if toward the back of your packet, you'll see some photos. And actually, you can find one there that's 1,067 feet from the kennel behind the home. That property was not in opposition. There's another property in there that is 749 feet. That's Mr. Marshall Pulliam. He wrote a letter, signed a letter, and submitted it in support. So we have neighbors that are supporting this. The property, the gentleman that was in opposition, I think was Mr. Phil Smith?
Yes, sir.
Was in opposition, and looking at Phil Smith's property, he's 1,553 feet away from the kennels. As a matter of fact, his airstrip and hangar are in between it, and there's dense brush and everything else, dense structures between these properties. So he may want to spend the night outside. He may hear dogs barking. But I went over last night just to kind of see if I heard anything, because I'd like to know what my client's real situation is. I didn't hear any dogs, but I sure heard a mule going like crazy over there and making all kinds of noise. Probably about a coyote over there. So I think that opposition was a little exaggerated, that the dogs are keeping him up at night when he sleeps outside. Did kind of take a look at the tax assessor's data on that particular property, and that residence is, and I'm not knocking a residence, but that residence shows to be unheated. I mean, right now it says the residence is really unfinished, and I have to apologize, I can't see without reading glasses. The actual structure itself, the property, was very little. I mean, the structure, it's incomplete property. So, Mr. Park lives there. He lives, if you look at the map, his house is right in the middle of the kennel and the litter area. He has no problem living there. The neighbors that are way closer than the one that complained, has no complaint whatsoever. But if you take a look at the definition under your ordinance, a kennel is with 4 or more adult dogs, rabbits, cats, or other domestic animals for the purpose of boarding, carrying, raising, training, and for sale. Litters of animals not more than 6 months old are to be excluded from the definition. So the term for a kennel in the front of his house, these are strictly puppies in a puppy room. They don't even live there. It's only where they show them. So the front portion of the house that's closest to the street is not housing adult dogs. It's puppies. And I think that was taken into consideration when the zoning board met, and hearing that discussion, the concern of I know one lady kept asking about, could you move the kennels to the back of the house? Could you move the kennels to the back? They are already in the back of the house. These were put in back in 2018, early part of 2018, these structures were built. So he has been in operation all this time, and the only reason he wants to have, he was unaware of the fact that he was not in compliance with zoning. He is attempting to become, under the Georgia Department of Agriculture, under the equine and companion law, to become a regulated distributor, so that he can also get the benefits of being licensed that way and go through those marketing channels, go through those channels to the Ag Department. And of course, he's already at the level he needs to be at. He can't really expand anymore with the facilities he has. And of course, any of that would be regulated by the Georgia Equine and Companion Division. So he's already, the structure's already built, they've been in place, and he's had these dogs for several years now. I have to say, if you look, I gave you a copy of your zoning regulations, and I don't want to try to repeat it verbatim because I know for time you've got a lot to deal with this evening. But I want to point out, this is intensive farming, A1 agricultural district. This zoning district is comprised primarily of open land and land used for intensive, I use the word intensive agriculture, livestock and poultry production. This is the nastiest of the nasty.
Easy.
But sir, I own land not 3,000 feet from his property. I also own land there. I pay taxes in Madison County too on Hannah's Creek Church Road. And I understand that. I plan to move there and build a house one day, but I know when I move into the area what I'm getting into when I move into it. And I think most people do. So when we talk about an area that's intensive, its purpose is to provide a livelihood for folks who want to be in that area, who want to produce and be part of agriculture. Noisy, smelly, and dusty. And the ordinance itself specifically states this is to be open land. It's supposed to be not greater than 5 acres. It can't even be subdivided. The intent of this regulation is to encourage the maintenance of the general rural character of openness and discourage the subdivision of land, which is better suited for agricultural use. The minimum parcel shall be 5 acres. Mr. Park has 14 acres. The adjoining neighbor who has complained has 80 acres, an airstrip, and really doesn't appear to live there permanently, only uses that for partial recreation. So what's allowed in this area? Single-family dwelling with a principal dwelling for the owner and operator of the agricultural business. Mobile homes for agriculture. These homes are for people live there for agriculture. They know what they're getting into when they step in and buy property. Again, What are we talking about here? Plants, nurseries, poultry, grazing, feedlots, turkey ranges, animal waste lagoons. The waste from his property, he has a trench, he puts a trench, and on the 14 acres, he digs a little small trench, he wheelbarrows it out and buries it. It doesn't run off into the water table, as the gentleman, Mr. Smith, wrote, that he was concerned it was going to pollute the water table. It could pollute the surface water. Just not so. But if you look at what you allow, it says that these, and even hog parlors, they have to be 400 feet from any other residence, 300 feet from the property line. If we continue on and look at it.
Hang on, let me end this for a second. I mean, I know what the ordinance says.
Okay.
And I think everybody here does. Intense agriculture, I don't know at what point dogs raising become intense agricultural, but I don't think that was the initial intent of intense agricultural. 25 breeding dogs is what he's asking for. 25 breeding dogs, and let's say 12 of them are pregnant. Golden retrievers have 8 to 10 puppies, correct? Now you're talking about 100 dogs.
How many puppies do they have, maybe?
Maybe 1 year, 80.
All in all.
All together.
All year, maybe 80 with those.
Not
total.
everything. People just
You got 25 sets, or is this 25 total? You got 12
He
males,
has,
12 females?
no,
What we got? We got 50 dogs, what we got?
No.
not every time, the pregnancy. Sometimes in the period, sometimes, to 1 and 2, will be little. Sometimes
So typically what's gonna happen though, if he's got 25 breeding dogs, he's probably gonna have 4 studs and the rest of them's gonna be females.
That's the situation.
And I think that the farmer sitting next to me would agree that if you put females together, they're gonna get in sync.
Yeah.
So potentially, he could be sitting there with 220 dogs at a time.
That was, the point I was alluding to was you do have a potential of going to 100, I was just gonna use an easy 100 dogs in a potential year.
He says 80. He says
Okay,
potentially
80 dogs.
80. But those will be puppies. He's not looking to keep these. These will be puppies, and they would be sold and marketed, and he attempts to keep them separate, and he attempts not to breed them because he only has limited space.
I get what the intent is. First step before coming to this board would have been to get your compliance through the state.
Well,
first.
The problem is they will not do that until he shows that he's zoned, that there's a zone problem. He has to get local reg. So that's the point.
That's one question, all right?
Yeah.
Now, secondly, you're asking for conditional use.
That's required to get this.
Required. But if you change this, is this in any way registered with the state as far as a business? Because you're going to sell for profit, which becomes a business. And at the point that it becomes a business, now it becomes an ag variance for a business, but not a conditional use.
No, it's just conditional use.
It'll still fall under conditional use, even though it's a business. All right, but then are you licensed with the state right now?
Well, that's what his attempt, the reason he's coming now, and this has become an issue, is he went to go, I forgot the lady's name at the state, I have a note somewhere. He went to her, and she said, well, the problem is, we have to make sure you get, I think, a letter from the county saying that this is zoned appropriately. So they won't step in and give him a license to be registered until the county has approved that it's not in violation of zoning law. So that's why he's here now, is to do that. Once he put the sign up, then the neighbor 1,500 feet away was upset about it. He's had none of the other neighbors, they're all very supportive. All the folks that live down on that area, none of them had a problem with it that we know of. And it was the only one was that one letter.
So you didn't find out you were not in compliance until you went to the state for a rezone? Because our county ordinance clearly said that you couldn't have more than 6 dogs, and you have 25 now.
Yeah.
So you're already out of compliance. And in 2017, it was 4 dogs.
It's still 4.
Still 4. I thought it went to 6.
How many does he have now?
It's 6 now.
No.
No, it's 4.
The definition of kennel is four adult dogs.
How many-
Puppies don't count.
How many dogs does Mr. Park have?
He has 17 females and I think 5,
8 males.
8 males.
According to Mr. Park, 8 males.
8 males.
And
17
17 females.
8 males, that's 25 dogs.
And so that's where he's capable to manage on his own. He can't manage but 80 pups a year. That depends on how well they come into heat or whatever, but that's all he can do on his own. And he's not looking to do anything else, but that for him is a livelihood that he can do and he can manage. And looking at the condition, the zoning, when you look at the setback, you're only required 100 feet from the property line and 250 feet from the next residence. He fits that way within those parameters. He has no problem in any direction with that. And I don't know if that was clearly presented by Mr. Hart in the diagram that he sent. It really doesn't illustrate it makes it look like it sits too close to the property. But if you actually look at the aerial photos that were taken, these aerial photos were taken back in 2019, these Google Map photos. And you can see the kennels are behind the house, and then the front's where he has the puppy room and the puppy areas. He keeps those separate from the adults.
You know, the number 25 was just picked from the air. I'm assuming it could have been 500. Once we grant this, he could have 500 at some point. I mean, it says he's requesting up to 25, but there's nothing in stone unless we agree that it'll be set that way. He'll never have more than 25. Without an animal control officer, we can't enforce that.
Consent to 25 is his limit on adults?
The board can make a condition.
We would have to set that.
With or without.
Be happy with 25 only? No more?
No.
No more adults?
No. All our systems are no, under 25, under.
The point I make is that the A1, those chicken houses, at midnight or at sleeping hours, you're not going to hear them from whatever footage.
No. Unless you're looking out.
Yeah, but dogs, we have them right here, and they bark 24/7. I don't know. So my thing is times 25, times sleeping all night. It's a big difference between raising cows, chickens, and donkeys.
I understand that.
So,
I mean,
none
of the neighbors around. I mean, the neighbors that have been invested there, that live there, they don't have a problem with it.
Been operating how long?
Sir?
Been operating how long?
Since 2017, May of 2017, and so. I understand about the dogs, but other animals make noises too, and their odors. These dogs do not. There's no major odor unless you get right into the kennel. If there's waste there, it's not a disturbance to everybody else. He's willing to go to 25 and make that a cap and make that a condition of it. And this has been his livelihood, and it's reasonable that he be allowed to do that because he's meeting the current requirements. He's got 14 acres of land. At what point would the county say, oh, well, this is not a problem, you need 500 acres for 20? It's not real clear. It's kind of ambiguous on what the intent of the ordinance is. I think it's unfair to him, too, or anybody else who's looking at something like this. And, you said he has plenty of buffer. He has trees around it to block the noise. And this is one person who's made it, and the other people have not had an issue with it.
Thank you, sir. Yes, question.
Chris,
Sorry.
are you familiar with the waste disposal requirements in a situation like this?
Depends on the kennel size in the county as well.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. May I ask, prior to having a staff member render an opinion, if there's a public, if councilors through, do we need to have an opinion or opposition, lay people opposition talk?
We can in discussion.
And then have staff give an opinion. I think it'd be more appropriate.
All right, thank you, sir.
We allow a rebuttal. We have a rebuttal when we're done.
You can, if there's a, yes. Anybody else here to speak in favor of? Anyone here to speak in opposition of? Hearing none. We'll close the public portion, bring it to the board. I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny this rezone, and then we'll have discussion.
Conditional use request.
Conditional use request, yes.
Mr. Chairman, before you do that, if you don't mind, from planning and zoning standpoint, I think that the people here should hear this letter, even though you've seen it, and you've read it. I think anybody here should hear it also.
If there was opposition here, I would agree with you 100%.
And this is opposition. This letter is in opposition. This
But we
gentleman
would be
was out
reading
of
it,
town.
and that is from him to us, and from him, if he wanted us to read it back to him, he would be here. But now, we took it into consideration, granted, I read it, and I think it's got very valid points in it. But to reread it again out loud to somebody that's not here in opposition of it would.
Okay, that's fine.
Because if we make the vote, the people on the camera tomorrow that may be mad about it should have been here tonight to voice a concern.
I agree.
I mean, for the record. I do have some questions, but we'll do that after we get the initial.
And you had no opposition at the planning and zoning meeting?
We had no actual person, and this gentleman couldn't be here because he was out of town.
All right, I thought that's what you stated, just want to make sure.
Right.
Yes.
I yield the floor back to Mr. Denny if there's questions for staff.
Yeah, question for staff.
Where I coming from on this, I've been involved in a number of animal breeding facilities at UGA, at a farm here in Madison County that's directly involved in that, animal shelters, and there has been specific guidelines in the projects that I've been involved in dealing with animal waste. And that did not involve digging a trench and putting it in the ground and covering it up. And in this particular case, I believe it would be safe to say that Chris has some background and experience related to that. And that would lead me to ask what his opinion
Fair statement.
is on that. So, that being said, Chris, could you give us some background into what the normal requirements might be for a breeding kennel involving this number of animals?
Yes. No.
It's fine.
All right, I think I can see. Fecal matter disposal at no point, even in intense agriculture, is accepted to just be buried in the ground. Even if we go to dairies or poultry farms, we have tons per acre or parts per million in water distillation set off. That doesn't affect the topsoil because it is monitored through GDA. At no point in time with any form of agriculture inside the state of Georgia is it acceptable to direct bury waste materials into the ground. And when it comes to dead animals, and we're trying to create dead bacteria, granted they may be full of poo-poo, but there's other stuff going on at the same time. And Mr. Chandler from the poultry house experience, you know there's rules and regulations for incineration, burial, even the pits, they have to be a certain depth and a certain type of soil across the board. In no way, shape, or form with 5 years working for GDA was it ever acceptable to dig a trench and say, there it is. That would fall into septic issues as well. Once you do put it in the ground, you're helping with the weight to push the contaminants into the ground, and there's no way to control it. Take shake rag hounds, for example, 250 dogs just for foxhounds. They have their own self-contained septic system just to deal with the dogs and their wastewater. And that's the reason that we have rules set up for how many dogs you can have before that becomes an issue. Just like in a home, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom has to convert for a certain level. You have to have your property approved to handle the waste for the animals. And if that's just dealing with the manure at hand now, the Department of Agriculture did reach out to me for this situation to verify it. Ms. Monroe is our area field inspection agent for equine and companion animals. I've worked with her for over 5 years and I'm on a first name basis. She wanted to make sure he was setting the rules up right because she had a questionable setup with how it was running. So she wanted to make sure that we were okay as a county before she moved forward, and that's how it came to be today.
Okay, so she has contacted you, and just so you reference, that is Madison County's, code enforcement officer.
So this is not it's not a question of him being allowed to operate from their perspective, but to reach a certain level, certain certification.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just the same, if he had a stack house, if he wanted to do it in a stack house, the canine fecal matter can't be handled in that matter. And right now, it's I'm just talking to you, literally shooting it, but that's just one aspect of this very, very broad ordeal. It also comes down to quarantine ability, since he is in this wooded area, neighboring dogs, various diseases. You know, from a biosecurity standpoint, that's one reason the state steps in, and they want to make sure the county's on board or has been met on their level before the state comes in, because there are gaps and loopholes as far as biosecurity training is concerned or certification.
Now, this is all enforceable by this lady at the state level to make sure that this took place?
See, that's where we get really convoluted, right there, and that's the reason they check to the county and the city if necessary. They have to meet our rules before they meet theirs. They are extremely lax, just like with poultry pits in particular, or say a cow dies on your property, you've got 72 hours to put it in the ground. All these are state things, where on the county level, we can say you got to have it in the ground within 24 hours. They do a yearly inspection and that's it. So if we move to approve with a conditional use, we're turning everything over to the state level for them to inspect it yearly. And we have no way to enforce anything from that point forward. And that's the reason it was set up as a conditional use, because it has to be talked about in this manner. It's not set out with straight state contingent rules, because it is considered equine and companion animal and not poultry and livestock, which is a whole different division that has much, much more scrutiny because of its larger scale. So they push it down to us from the state level to handle, as you gentlemen are doing it here tonight.
All right, thank you, Chris. Good question, I guess. That's a good answer. Go ahead.
One more thing is also the death and mortality when it has to come to a site, just like dealing with the chicken pit back it. When he does have puppies that die, when he does have dogs that come off, just not for old age. We rarely see it in intense agriculture where an animal makes it to old age. Either we've slaughtered it prior to, or we've had to cull it out. With canines, it's normally at the end of their life, or they contracted a disease that is then transmittable. And so when you have the kennels, you have the greater aspect of transmitting disease within it. It can be underlying heartworms, for one example, Lyme, non-active rabies. You can also come into malformed degenerative bones and joints that comes from bacteria that's in the ground. You've got parvo, which can sit inactive in the ground for up to 10 years between the degrees of negative 12 or 18, I'm sorry, I can't remember, and up to 125, all in the Fahrenheit degree scale, which are soluble through the water table up top. I'm so sorry. Y'all need more.
No. Any other question before I ask for a motion? All right, have a motion.
Can we have a rebuttal before
You can, sure, go right ahead.
I
thought it was informative, I didn't know it was, but go ahead.
I realize there are issues of things like regulatory schemes for the county level, that I don't know that there are any regulatory schemes for kennels other than the zoning, the structure being there, and how many animals are considered a kennel. I don't see any regulation out there at all. I see some discussion from your code enforcement, code enforcement, you know, what he's picked up and what he understands, but you know, talking about biosecurity and all these, you know, groundwater metrics. These are issues of regulation. The county has not adopted those. They've allowed the state to make that call. To deny Mr. Park to use his land for the highest and best use of what it needs to be for, to make a living, is taking rights from him. I mean, he has the right to make a living, and he's been making a living, and he needs to continue to be able to make that living. He's not harmed anybody, and the scheme that's been laid out for zoning, he meets the compliance of the scheme, the minimal standards, lot size, setbacks, and he's had no complaints until the neighbor decided that doesn't want, you know, dogs barking while he sleeps outside at night. I think you need to consider supporting someone in agriculture. Because a lot of times the folks in the county don't get supported in agriculture because it's a dirty, nasty job. And the neighbor that moved there, that retired there in a dirty, nasty area, doesn't want it. But everybody else around is fine with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. So I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny the request for the kennel for Mr. Park.
I guess this is in District 4.
It is.
And, you know, I guess I wasn't aware of all the ins and outs of this until tonight. I definitely have some issues with how and what we're looking at here. I guess from my standpoint, where I'm looking, and just sort of explain what I'm going to do here, is that, you know, I understand his right over there or whatever, you know, with the dogs and that issue. But I also have concern about going forward that if we allow a kennel and at this magnitude, and we do that, then we're going to create issues that we have no control over from Madison County standpoint. Therefore, we just take a problem that we've got and we multiply that problem and make it something, you know, into a bigger problem. So I think that even though I sympathize with you making a living there and doing that, and it looks good what you're doing now, but looking forward to this expansion, I'm not comfortable with it without us going back as a county and looking at this and making sure that we're not doing something that is going to be very regrettable in the future. So I would make a motion that we deny the request at this time, and that at some time, whenever maybe the applicant has better and more data that would make us more comfortable with how he's going to handle this, and after we've had time to look at it, to bring it back before us and bring it to the planning and zoning for a reload.
May I speak? It's closed now.
So, I'll make a motion to deny the request, which is the same with...
Would it be a better assumption, Mike, to potentially not necessarily deny the request, but table this until we can get something written, because there's a couple other factors that we did not play in here, and that'd be animal control, and them understanding and us having rules or no rules to go by, saying the way the structure's got to be built, the runoff, this, that, and it. Several factors that we're missing prior to this that we can't adopt after the fact and then turn around and expect him to follow it. Now, the second thing in this is you have, how many dogs now? 20 some odd dogs now. Postponing it, he's already in violation currently. Denying it means tomorrow all the dogs have got to go because somebody's going to be knocking on the door. So by postponing it says it's not over, but it gives us time to back up, reevaluate the situation, and to potentially structuring a better ordinance, because we don't have one now. Currently, we're using the states, and maybe adopting something, and then possibly moving forward.
That would work. Let me ask Ms. Linda, does the zoning ordinance require a decision within a certain number of days of the hearing? I know it does at the P&Z level. I don't know if it does here. If it does, the applicant could waive it.
May I?
Yes.
I mean, your ordinance specifically, you can remand it back to them. You can either deny or you can remand it back to them for further negotiation.
That's true. You could also remand.
And that's what I was going to suggest, is that if we get a chance, an opportunity for me to help him try to figure this out.
I think that's actually what Brian's asking.
We can do that, yes. And that was the intent of what I'm talking about.
As part of that, Mike, would you research what some of your other clients may do regarding breeding facilities for service animals?
Sure. With an eye towards conditions you could place on an approval.
Yes.
Okay.
To give us parameters that we understand that we could work within.
I think we can also use staff on that also.
I was going to suggest we'd probably also like Mr. Roach to help us with at least the things he's spoken to tonight.
So do we need a motion to remand?
Correct.
Yeah. I make a motion to remand it back to the planning zone.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have just a couple of comments, and this just in my mind, and I think your presentation is correct. If kennels is something that we as a county want to allow, I think you're probably in an appropriate location. All of these are all, and I've been through several on the planning commission. All of these are, everybody's very hesitant about these because of two things. Everybody's afraid of barking, and everybody sees the commercials on TV with puppy mills and bad conditions. So we've got a bad perception in our mind. If these are handled properly, I think there probably is an appropriate place for them. But again, in the absence of strict requirements in our ordinance, we're relying on what the Department of Ag has laid out. And I would challenge you and Mr. Park to go back to you can use Mr. Roach as your contact to get with the appropriate Department of Ag officials and have them help you define exactly what you need to be doing to be as ideal as can be under their guidelines. And if we can see my hesitation begins to go away if we feel like if we can, particularly on the septic issue, if we can begin to align ourselves with whoever needs to be there. There.
Yes, I guess part of my thoughts or concerns would be, or encouraged to, I think part of the application, I was making the assumption that it was a new facility. Now, it's not a new facility, it's an existing facility. So then, just because you're doing what you're doing now, it's still a violation of what's there, or violation of the ordinance. Kind of like asking permission after the fact. And I think somewhere along the line, and I don't know where the answer is, I'm going to ramble for a minute, but you got a business that's been there, several generations, 20, 30 years, and calling some zoning things, to me that's a little easier. 4 years, you've been in existence for a little bit, but if you'd come before me 4 years ago, 25 sounds like a lot of animals to me. I don't know. I'll support the idea of remanding it back with some additional understanding, make sure that it's an appropriate facility, you know, the acreage is appropriate for the dogs. I would agree with the capping of it, you know, whether it's 25 or 20 over some, you know, not saying get rid of 5 immediately, but, you know, as they age and move on, if you would. I think that's some of the discussion that would make me, you know, be more supportive.
Any other discussion? First of all, from me to you, I'm glad he has counsel with him. You done well. Very valid, very valid. I just agree with Terry in saying this because this is new chartered water. We would like to get it right the first time versus backing up and punting. So at no point do you have to cease operation today, even though only because of the 4 years. Bear with us. Let us get this put together. Let everybody dot the i's and cross the t's and meet our whatever ordinances we put up with from the state or wherever. And then we'll bring it back before us. I will not promise you that it'll be immediately in 30 days because it may take a little longer than that to get the documents cleared up before it comes back on P&Z. I would expect it'll, guesstimation March. I think that's a fair assumption, about 3 months to get it all. We want to get it right. Sure. And no disrespect, he's done nothing wrong. I think he does, just like Terry said, the acreage is right. Let's just get that done.
We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So now I need a final vote on that recommend.
Mr. Chairman, before you move forward, and let me understand from P&Z staff.
Yes, sir.
Does a new ordinance need to be written?
Yes, the current one.
Well, no, because you would be considered under the ordinance at the time of application. What we're looking for are conditions placed on the grant of the conditional use application, such as cap on the number of adult dogs, handling of animal waste, all the issues that have been discussed tonight.
Security items,
Yeah, all those items that Chris basically brought forth.
So we'll come back to the P&Z under the, just as it came now, with more information. Is that what you're saying?
more information and additional conditions that is acceptable to the property owner to say, if you allow this, we will adhere to these rules.
But the conditions will be amendments to that, the original ordinance.
Well, we might do that later as a part of our ordinance,
okay, we
but
can do it after
for
the fact.
purposes of this one, there'll just be conditions on the motion. So, yeah, so I think that's the board's direction, is for staff and the applicant to work together to come up with conditions that will address these concerns.
We're obviously,
and then bring those back through P&Z then to here.
we're obviously learning from this that the regulations on these operations at the state level may not be as inclusive or intense as we want them to be. So then so as we learn from this, we may want to look at the ordinance and say, in addition to what the state requires, then the operated kennel in Madison County, it'll have to include A, B, and C.
You know, and structure
That will have nothing to do with this issue. As we learn from here, then.
Now, structure hasn't even been discussed, but at some point, the structure from a state level says you must have 12 square feet per one dog. We don't know that that's met. We have to follow all those, and those will have to be part of those conditions, that we are following those. So some of the questions P&Z would ask would be some of the questions set forth by the state.
Indoor housing versus outdoor housing.
Exactly.
Manure handling different.
It's a very hard topic. Probably one of the hardest topics ever is dogs. I mean, everything else is normally somewhat cut.
I figured after your tax discussion, you'd want to talk about zoning for dogs.
Yeah, thank you. Double whammy tonight.
First meeting of the year.
All right, so, Terry.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yes. I think it was a fair vote. I think he's gonna be okay. I think get it worked out. Y'all take care. Wow, number 2. Number 3.
Number 3. This is for Clint Larkin, requesting his company High Point Bailey LLC be allowed to rezone 2 parcels. The first is map 45, parcel 173. That is 13.93 acres, zoned A1. Second parcel, map 45, parcel 181, that is 8.15 acres, zone A1. He would like to rezone these properties to R1 to combine for a major subdivision of 13 lots. The properties are located on Spratling Mill Road in District 3. There was one person that spoke with concerns of where the drive of the subdivision was coming out onto Spratling Mill Road. That was the only one. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was 4-0 to approve.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this rezone? Is Mr. Larkin present? That's rare. As many phone calls as I've received about this. Yeah, he don't have to be.
I haven't heard from him, so I don't.
I've heard many times. Anyone here to speak in opposition of? Yes.
I had a citizen call me this afternoon, actually. He was gonna come tonight, but he had some COVID symptoms and he had been in contact with somebody, so he didn't want to come to the meeting. But, he was concerned about the developer. He understood that the developer who developed his neighborhood that he lives in is this same developer. And they've got an ongoing legal issue, between the homeowners in that development and this developer. He had built the driveway, it's off of Foot McClellan Road, and the road going into this little cul-de-sac of 4 homes is a 10-foot wide driveway, and it's not up to our code in the county. They've gone back and forth with this developer. The developer said that they would come in and redo the driveway. They haven't done it yet, and this has been going on since, I believe it was March. The man I spoke with today is named John Bragg. You may know him.
Okay. I do not know John. Thank you for that information. I'm almost positive we're talking about different developers.
Completely different.
Okay. We was talking about it also by looking up here.
Yeah, well, and that's what
I was hoping Clint would be here to clarify that.
But it is completely different. They have nothing to do with it.
It is, and I know who the other developer is.
Okay.
We are making changes coming through code. They're not gonna be able to do that anymore.
They already can.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we already can. Anyway, there's some changes coming as far as that.
I know when that was approved.
I believe he said it was.
I mean, I don't need to know mine, but we need to know if that should have been, because after a certain date, then that road should have been the county specs before.
Right, and I believe he said it was 2018 or 19. I've got the.
Which we wouldn't adopt it. We wouldn't have to, we probably hasn't accepted it yet. But not here nor there on this particular one. I have rode out and looked at these homes. These are the homes, that's the $400,000 to $700,000 homes, Miss Linda, is that correct?
Yes.
These are the metal studded homes. I'm sure y'all went into a little more detail than we did. I know there were some pictures sent of these homes.
Due to the one person that spoke concerning the drive coming out onto Spratling Mill, there was a lot of discussion by the P&Z about that, and we talked about, since that property goes all the way through, why didn't they have a through road there? From Ms. Linda, there had been discussion that they believed that if they did that, it'd be a cut-through road. But just from my opinion of going out and looking at it, it's not far up there where those 2 roads come out anyway. So I don't see why anybody want to cut through.
No, they do it.
I mean, they may want to, but anyway, that was something that was discussed by the PSA. And we'll prove it irregardless of the one exit. If it was me, I would recommend 2 exits.
Derek, are you familiar with this particular road and where it'll locate onto Sprattle Mill?
Generally speaking, yeah.
Since there's no one here in opposition, no one here in favor of, we'll just go ahead and pull it. We can pull it to a vote, and if you choose to add, the recommendation.
We'll deal with that.
Yeah, we can do that.
In plat
Yeah,
approval.
that's right. So I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny Mr. Larkin's request for rezone.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second motion.
I have a motion second. Any discussion, gentlemen?
Just one thing, and I think, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, for my own education, because I'll just say it's a new year. We approve this, and then procedurally.
Preliminary plat, final plat.
Preliminary plat, we have the authority to make some
Right.
recommendations or stipulations there, and then it moves on.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, basically. It's always a little gray as to whether you're not really supposed to go above and beyond what's in the ordinance, but there's a lot of technical specs, in subdivision regs as well as the zoning ordinance that you're assuring the compliance with those at the preliminary plat approval level.
Okay.
Yeah, but Linda, I assume somebody will be in contact with the developer here, but, in my mind, when we get to plat approval, he's gonna have a pretty compelling reason not to make that a through road for me to be happy with it.
Actually, I had talked with Alan, Wazinski, and we talked about this, and neither one of us recommended that going through because of this. It would create, if there's children out playing, this would become a cut-through road, and it would not be safe for that reason.
I'd like for him to take a look at that and consider it as he's doing his planning process. I assume he has sort of a sketch of an idea, but I'd like him just to recognize that that's going to be brought up and be.
Yeah, and the packet that I did send to you did help.
Yeah, that's what I saw with the cul-de-sac.
To echo Terry's comments on that, I just have reservations about us continuing to make these little cul-de-sacs. I appreciate that they're trying to create a neighborhood effect there, but I keep going back to what some of our surrounding counties have done and what I've seen, where for access by emergency vehicles, for school buses, it's just, a cul-de-sac's just not conducive to a real development.
Many counties have made connectivity where possible, an explicit part of their subdivision regulations.
In fact, if I may go a little bit further with this comment, that our IDA, and I believe Frank has left, there's a development being put in that's going in off of Highway 98. Well, it's off the Rogers Mill Road. I believe it's 17 homes that's being built in there, and it was actually brought up to us that the county wants to run an additional 600 to 700 foot of water main to create a loop there where the water will feed from both ways, so we don't generate another problem like we have up on Mize Road.
Yeah,
with a dead-end water line also.
Yeah, and again, connectivity with through roads would avoid that altogether.
Yes. Derek, I think you were reaching.
Well, I understand the concern of a cut through, but there's numerous practices with talented design people with context sensitive design that can do things that provide the units or possibly the number of units that people want, and do it in a way that reduces those things instead of just some straight lines at a cheaper cost to the developer.
I'll be more than happy to chime in on that whenever we get to that point with them. I don't like cul-de-sacs neither. And the way to stop that cut through, add speed bumps. Nobody gonna drive over those just to save another quarter mile. They'll go around the speed bump, so that's obnoxious, but at least you do have the contingency. All right, so, yeah, it's on you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Motion carries. Number 4.
Very good. Number 4. This is for Ms. Rhonda Black. She is representing her mother, Butter Dove. She would like to rezone 2.07 acres for her 30.47 acre property. She would like to give this to her son where he currently lives. The property is zoned A1. She would like to rezone this parcel to RR. The property is located on map 64, parcel 16 at 4140 Highway 29 North in District 4. The vote of the Planning and Zoning was 4-0 to approve.
Thank you. Anyone here to speak in favor of? Yes, ma'am. You can keep your seat. Well, actually, I need you to step up with your name and address. I apologize.
It's confusing having the work session and the zonings.
It's zoning on the same night, yeah.
I'm Rhonda Black. I live at 1647 Garnet Ward Road in Hall, and I grew up on this property. My mom is 94 years old, and she just wants something settled before she's gone so that my brother gets to keep the property that he's on. He lives down below her and checks on her constantly, and she just wants to make sure he has this property where he already currently has a home. There's 7 of us, so it's supposed to be equally divided upon her death, so she wants to make sure this part of it is specifically his.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Thank you. Anybody here speak in opposition of? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny.
I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirk, second by Mr. May. Any discussion, gentlemen?
I'm a little uneasy about this being an RR right in the middle of A1 and A2, but family, being family, I think that sort of trumps it.
I understand the reasoning in that particular one. All right. No other discussion? Brian?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Motion carries. Logan Water.
Yeah. Logan Waters, representing Axton Incorporated. They want a variance on a new building to allow it to exceed the maximum 35-foot building height. The property is located at 25 Matico Drive on map 83, parcel 5-01 in District 4. There was no one to speak in opposition. The vote of the Planning and Zoning was 4-0 to approve.
Thank you, sir. And I was told they give y'all a very well in-depth presentation
Yes.
of what this was going to be.
Yes.
Is anyone here tonight from Ashton? Yes, sir. See, I thought you was trying to build a house. I was like, oh, Lord, no, I'm just kidding.
Logan Waters, 22 Barnett Shoals Road, Watkinsville. I'm the civil engineer that's assisting Axton with this variance. As you know, it's a current operation they have at the site now, and they're looking to really upsize their process. So part of that is the building expansion. Due to their process and workflow for the chicken feed supplement that they are producing, they need the additional height so that they can have silos for material storage, testing. They'll have personnel on some higher levels as well. But they are an existing company. They're looking to really beef up their production here. And unfortunately, the company's rep who could answer any confusing questions you may have, he is out with COVID, so I'll do my best. But
I have one. This expansion, do you know how many square foot it's potentially going to be?
I believe is it 18,000? 18,000 square feet.
Square foot expansion.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea on employment? What kind of expansion of employment?
I think they're looking at around 15 to 25 employees.
At a rough dollar figure of?
Ooh, sorry.
No problem. No problem. I was just going to test you. I'm not going to go 2 for 3. I'm going to go ahead. You know.
And is this going to be some silos will be in that?
Yes, I believe they're silos. I know there will be some testing, and the equipment for the testing needs to be a higher level, so they will have personnel up there. As far as the frequency, I'm not sure.
Right. So, but does it expand also the square footage of the building?
Yeah, so the building will be 180 feet by 100 feet.
Okay.
And, you know, where I have to exceed that, height variance for the equipment.
Sure.
Now, I do have a question regarding the height of the silos.
Okay.
And the reason I say this is because it was ran into several years ago with the feed mill in Comer because of the fire protection.
Okay.
After, you know, they had to go out and buy a ladder truck after they agreed to build the building. They built the building and couldn't put the fire out. They didn't own a ladder truck. And it was a very expensive venture for Comer to have to purchase this one ladder truck for this one business. And making sure, has anybody checked to verify that that is in Comer District also, that ladder truck will be able to access if there was a fire, or is there a potential, even fire potential in that particular silo?
So when we go through the building plans and site plan process, that will be, you know, we'll have to get approval from Comer Water since they are the supplier there.
Okay.
I do know the building will be sprinklered, so there's not, you know, we will have some fire suppression on site.
You'll have that. You'll probably have some outside.
Yes, well, I'm sure.
Where you can hook ups and things like that.
Right, we'll have an FTC connection either on the building or, you know, an external one.
You know, much different process too. The feed mill is, Columbia Farms feed mills.
Yeah.
The dry feed mills, a lot of dust. Those are really potential fire hazards. This is an entirely different process.
And I don't, from what I know about fire departments and stuff, since the ladder truck is in Comer, and basically, for the whole county, we only really need one ladder truck right now, so.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna be an issue. We get something a lot larger than that, then it may become an issue.
All right, understood.
It was just a question because I knew they'd ran into it years ago.
Okay, well, I'll be sure to follow up when we get there.
Yeah, it'd be good to follow up and make sure.
Is the intent, is the equipment all be inside the building?
Yes,
Okay.
just for their workflow, that works.
No, that's fine, there's a picture in the building, so I just wanna make sure
They will
have silo, I wanna make sure it's.
Right, they'll have some external, containers outside, but nothing like what they're planning on the high variance for.
Okay.
Do we know how high the variance needs to be?
So we've requested 70 feet.
Okay.
Building plans are still kind of fluid in process as they work through a couple things with their process engineers.
60 feet.
Okay, I see now.
Yeah, that would have
60
answered
to
it.
70 and
I was
then
making sure it wasn't 150 or 200.
Oh, yeah, 70.
Yeah, I mean, that would
70 feet is the max.
Okay, that would need to be part of the motion. I mean, you don't just vary and say like the setback's relieved, you say the setback's reduced to, or the height is increased to. So 70 feet is what it needs to be increased to. Okay.
All right, anything further?
I don't think so, sir.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Motion to approve or deny?
Opposition.
I thought I did. Any opposition? I'm sorry. You're right. Now, a motion to approve or deny Ashton's request for variance.
We approve this request for variance up to 75 feet.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Chandler, second by Mr. Kirk. Any discussion, gentlemen?
Yes. And the only thing I would encourage my fellow commissioners to vote yes to this, because I'm involved in the project. I would have to abstain, not as a subcontractor, but I would need to abstain from voting there. I have worked for Accitan in the past, and I can tell you the facility is spotless, it's well contained, and I just can't help but believe this wouldn't be a boon for our county if it proceeds. Not to mention bringing up to 25 new jobs in the county.
Thank you. So his vote will be abstain.
And I can't thank Mr. Adams for following the correct procedure. That's what you're supposed to do, is so you have a conflict and explain it, so.
I love it. Thank you. We try to do things right. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Eric?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that'd be 4.
And it's to increase to 70 foot.
75.
75 in height.
Annual heart degree, number 7.
Okay, the next one is, number 6 and 7, and we took this up as one vote, so we'll, present this to you together, okay? 6th public hearing was for David Hardigree, who is representing his company, Triple M Land Holding LLC. He is requesting to rezone his 9.3 acre parcel from A1 to RR to subdivide into 4 parcels. The property is located at 11626 Wildcat Bridge Road on map 65, parcel 32 in District 4. He is also requesting to rezone his 5.88 acres parcel from A1 to RR to subdivide into 3 parcels. The property is located on Wildcat Bridge Road, map 65, parcel 32 in District 4. There were several neighbors that spoke against the approval of these requests, and I think some of them are here tonight. The vote of the Planning and Zoning Commission was 4-0 to deny.
Thank you, sir.
On both canals?
Yes.
Yes, on both. Anyone here speak in favor of?
That'd be me.
You must be Daniel Hardigree.
I am Daniel Hardigree in person. The reason for my request for RR was because there's roughly, I believe there's 4 parcels adjoining this land that are between 1 to 3 acres apiece. There's a thin strip that is a 1 acre. On the other side of that, there's roughly 1.5 acres. On the back left-hand corner, I think there's a 2.5 and a 3 acre parcel also touching me. And then there's also a 2 acre parcel on, let's call it the right-hand side of the property, okay, on down the Wildcat Bridge Road. There is 2 other parcels that are agricultural zoned that are next door to me also. But a majority touch is 2 acres, or 2 to 3 acres. So that was the reasoning for my request for RR. I was trying to utilize the most land possible to build on. When I sat down with Miss Linda, we came up with the number. Now, I am not opposed to hearing anyone's recommendation. If it does not, y'all don't like what I'm asking for, I don't take anything personally. So, you know, I'm just here. I'm a taxpayer in Madison County. I live in Madison County, and I've been born and raised here in Madison County. I do build a very nice house with good finished work inside of it, and as I explained the first time around to the P&Z, they can average anywhere from $250,000 to $450,000, roughly $400,000. You know, that's kind of a higher end house. My plan was here was whatever I could get approved for would probably be around 1,800 to up to probably 2,700 square foot house. I haven't exactly laid the whole plan out. The gentleman's request to rezone to try to get some lots, okay, going over there. So I was trying to conform to the neighborhood because it is not all agricultural land over there. There is multiple RR parcels and there's multiple small parcels adjoining this property. So that is the reason for my request. Now, on the back side, we did talk about a possibility of a private driveway, depending on how many splits we could get. I am willing to put in 60-foot right-of-way on that if we go to that, for access in case it got turned over to the county in the future. I should have enough land there to do that. There again, once I get a final plan done, septic's done, the whole 9 yards perked, I may not get to build that many houses over there, okay? This is just a request up front, but I may not be able to build that many houses. I just want everybody to understand. The reason they denied it, or requested to deny it, was because they did not like the layout of it. That is not a final layout. That is not in writing. That is not in an engineered plan. That is just what me and Miss Linda drew in her office because she said it met the requirements.
No, this is A2.
Both parcels are currently A1, right?
I do believe so.
No,
According to the paperwork.
one track is.
Maybe one of them's A2.
One is A1
Yeah.
and one is A2.
Okay.
So they actually are.
That's right. Now, the thin 1 acre parcel that joins me on the field side is still agricultural zone, but it is only 1 acre.
All right. If there's opposition, you'll get an opportunity to come up to try to answer any questions in case they ask a question.
Yep, 100%.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else here in favor of? Anyone here in opposition? I'm looking at you, child, just because you're sitting dead in front of me. Come on.
Pick me out of the crowd, didn't you? My name's Travis Adams. My address is 2328. I was opposing this on the way the layout was, the number of the houses, you know, just in general, you know, I thought it should be relooked at. You know, like he was talking about, may not be able to put 7 houses back there, you know, but like I said, we was just all as a community around there was just concerned about it, you know.
Sure.
But other than that, that's about all I got. Keep it short and sweet.
Unlike this 2-hour and 20-minute meeting.
Yeah, I know it. I thought I was gonna get in politics till I come up here, and I said, no, thank you.
Ah, see? Hey, don't give up yet, bud.
Oh, hell, don't worry about it. I done did.
All right, young man. Anyone else here in opposition of?
Are we all, take this whole corner?
That's fine. Is there a consensus amongst you? You have a,
I think we're all
just one of you come on up.
consensus that there's gonna be houses built there. We understand that. We all feel like 7 houses it's a neighborhood, and we don't wanna live next to a neighborhood. And that's just the bottom line. We could see 3, 4, but 7 houses right there in that area with that little bit of road frontage is a neighborhood. And that's, I don't think any of us want that. And they can speak for themselves.
That was Travis's
wife, by the way, so you'll same name, same.
My name's Neil Miller. I live at 11734 Wildcat Bridge Road. I'm the adjoining property of 5.88 acres. The 1 acre he's talking about is part of my property. My dad bought an acre from Mr. Adams years ago, so it never got rezoned and put into 1 lot. But my concern with it is, like I announced before, we do 7 homes here. There's no county water in the area. There's no county sewage. So you potentially drilling 7 wells in the area, 7 more septic tanks, and the board members themselves up here said they didn't like the feel of it because it reminded them of a subdivision. Well, I live where I live because I want to be out in the country. If I wanted to live in a subdivision, I'd move my family to Colbert, Hull, anywhere like that. But I've talked to other people in the area that's not here tonight, and I know I can't speak for them. They totally against it, but I wanted to say my piece on it and let you know how I felt.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for coming forward. Anybody else here in opposition? Come on.
I'm Bernie Session, I live on 88 Dry Creek Road, Angelsville, Copper Road. I just oppose it. I just see this like a subdivision. I grew up in this county my whole life, mainly in that area, and I hope to buy some land, you know, in a few years maybe, there in that area. But putting in 7 houses like it is basically a subdivision to me. And the more people you let do this in this county, they're gonna continue to keep pushing it. They're gonna build more subdivisions and more subdivisions, more subdivisions. We're gonna have nothing left for our kids, family, nothing. And there again, the septic tanks, the wells, all that good stuff. I mean, I just totally oppose them. I mean, not him building 3, 4 houses, just myself.
Okay.
But, that's
So far the consensus is if he builds 4, we're okay, 7 he's not. The consensus so far, right? Thank
Depends
you,
on
Brandon.
how the land lays out for it, Todd.
Correct.
You know, you've got that power line that runs through the middle of that property. I mean, the pipeline, gas line, I don't know how the recommendations are, or what the laws are as far as building directly on that. But you gotta look into consideration, it runs right through the middle of the property. You know, there's several different factors, not just saying, yeah, we okay with 4, or yeah, we okay with 5. You know, I just think that the property, the way it's laid out just needs, like he was talking about, more consideration, you know what I'm saying?
I understand.
Like I said, I can't tell that man, yeah, he's done bought that property, and no, you can't do nothing with it but plant flowers on it.
I understand.
You know, the county's not set up to work like it, you know, but then again, you take everybody in this room, and nobody really wants a subdivision in their back door. You know, that's just plain and simple, all there is to it. You know, a few houses, that's one thing, you know, but when you get into the subdivision thing, that opens up a whole nother door. But I think as a group, we could all work together. I'm not saying that we can't, but I think as a group, we could all work as one, and everything work out for everybody.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else in opposition? Yeah, can I have you?
Britt Summers, 294 Old Royston Road. I live on
What was your name?
Britt Summers.
Thank you.
He talks real slow.
294 Old Royston Road, Danielsville. Land backs up to his, my dad's land, and we oppose it. It feels, looks like a subdivision, feels like a subdivision, it is a subdivision, and, we just don't care for that. I feel like it's agricultural, it needs to stay agricultural. That's it.
Thank you, bud. Glad to see you feeling better.
Thank you.
If I could clarify something, the discussion on the subdivision, since I made the motion to deny this, I feel obligated to say it. A subdivision is anything five lots or more. And we've got 2 parent parcels here, and independently, they look okay. The issue, at least to me, when I made the motion to deny, is the way that it's structured, in that he doesn't have quite enough acreage on this parent parcel in the back, so he's going over here and grabbing a piece of this parcel to make it work, and then the access road going in off of this one is going to curve around and access the back parcel on this one over here. So we're locking both of these together, and in essence, from that standpoint, it does look like a subdivision. Independently, they don't, but he is meshing them together, which makes it look like a subdivision.
Thank you for that clarification.
One other major consideration that there was a lot of discussion with the P&Z was, because of the private drive. And I think he addressed that a little bit in his opening statement, but the private drive was a big consideration, when the P&Z discussed it.
Yeah. As much problems we have out of private drive, I'm glad to hear he said he was gonna make it to the county width of 60-foot right-of-way to
20-foot drive. Now, Mr. Hardegree, you have an opportunity to speak.
Well, let me jump back up there. Again, I'm not here to make anybody mad. Okay? I'm just a law-abiding citizen, like to build houses, okay? So, let's go back to what they said, 3 or 4 houses, okay? There is still the small house that is located on the large parcel. Now, I have all intentions of bringing that house back to life and redoing it. Now, whether it takes me $50,000 or $100,000 to bring that little house back to life, it may or may not be worth it. That is the plan, though, okay? And that was gonna be one of the lots, that little house. It already has its own driveway to it, whole 9 yards. Now, with that being said, if it was 4 houses I built, 2 could go on the big backside, 2 could go on the 5 acres. I'm open to discussion. I just don't want to be denied because I want to be clarified to everybody that I'm open to discussion here. Okay? Now, whether I have to move that little house, I have done that before too. So, you know, there's a few odd and ends that we could work out, but my goal currently is to fix that little house, remove all them sheds. There's a ton of sheds right there. Some of them need to be gotten out of there. It's just too cluttered. I'm trying to make it look a little better and clean it up. Is what, so, that better understand what I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Now they're really liking it. Now you hear them?
Well, I mean, you know, and I'm not trying to make anybody uncomfortable with it.
No, you're, we got both sides, you have the rebuttal, we're good.
I'm very easy to get along with, I promise.
Remand this one back and have it clarified with the, some conditions.
Here's a challenge for me, and you may, and Brian's suggestion may well be the best one. And I think, in my mind, any way I consider both of them together. So if you go to R1, then that potentially allows you 7 lots, which throws you in the way I would consider to be major subdivision regulations. So you got to jump through all the hoops. And I'll just tell you, I don't think that fits. And I think there's other ways of looking at it. Another real problem, that's a real thorn for us as commissioners, is private drives. And even if you concede 60 feet, at some point in time, somebody's going to say, whose job is it to keep this up? And then when people can't get along, they say, county, you come keep this up for us, because we can't get along and do it ourselves. So then everybody that purchased on that private drive, who purchased knowing it was a private drive, then all of a sudden says, why don't you come and do this for us? So anyway, private drives are, and we're going to fix it. That's not going to be allowed. So at some point, but so that creates a real problem in what your potential could be if it goes to R1, to RR, yeah.
Now, I will say this, I do have a good road maintenance agreement for a private driveway, which we used over at Mr. Carey's property, over off of Whitfield Road, where each of the individual parcels have an undivided interest in the driveway. They each pay their own tax bill portion of it. It's worked out quite well. Everybody's actually built out their houses over there, and they've exchanged hands multiple times on some of them, on those parcels, but that has worked out well. So I do have a solution for that part of it.
Okay. I'm still uncomfortable with the rezone to RR, because it does open larger opportunities. If you look at this, if the A1 parcel went to A2, then that grants 3. And I think probably everybody is in agreement with that. Anyway, that's just my thought. I appreciate your presentation and appreciate your attitude, and I'm just trying to throw that at you. I don't want to, as a denial for you, cost you a window of time.
Well, that's the reason I said I'm open for discussion. If we want to say there's X amount of lots, we'll do. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm open for that.
So let me ask you something. In the planning and zoning, were you open to any suggestions or potentially a lesser lot or anything like that? Was that discussed?
I did say that. Yes, I did.
And did y'all have any recommendation on potentially changing the vote had he had reduced the lot amount?
What happened was, and he did say, I'm open to any suggestions that you have. But in the setting that we're in the planning and zoning, we're trying to listen to opposition. We're trying to listen to those that want it.
Yes.
You know, at that particular setting, we weren't in position to make recommendations as to how to change your plan. You know, you came in with these plans, and he spent a lot of time making these plans up, and it was unfair for us just to sit there and say, well, do this, do this, do this, do this. I'm not opposed, as planning and zoning term, to bring it back, or let him take it back, work with his neighbors, and come back with a different plan that we may can approve. But the present plan that was presented to us was to deny.
Okay.
And no, we did not.
Yeah, that's okay.
Try to help him change his plan in that particular setting.
So I've ran into this before, and Terry probably has also. Had it just been a request to go to RR, sometimes we ask more than we probably should because it puts us in a pickle. When you stated, I'm gonna do 7 lots, does he has to state, he has to do so? I mean, at any point in time, did he have to state how many lots at this point of the rezone? I felt that it just should be, if you're requesting to go to RR, that should be our decision. The lots ain't on it at this point. That point would come later during an engineered draft drawing. But
Is it appropriate for this land to be zoned RR?
correct. And that way you wouldn't be in this discussion right now. That discussion would have come later.
So the reason that number come up, Linda asked me
Yeah.
how many,
Yeah.
and I said, well, this would be the most based on a 2-acre setup. So we just drew it out
Yeah,
based
I got
on highest and best there. That's the reason I said I'm up for discussion.
So, let me, for my understanding, so if we reduce the lot size, it's still gonna need to be rezoned to RR?
If you can go down to 5 acres in A2.
That's small.
Yeah, he would.
That's what I'm saying, that's what I thought.
So there's, if you consider them both as one, then you're talking about three 5-acre parcels. And I do view this as one.
Well, it is just shy of that 9 acres, so it is not 15 acres because I had it resurveyed.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's another reason why I'm asking for this. Generally, I might would just say, hey, let's go 3 5-acre tracts here. But I can't get that unless somebody go give me a little bit. I ain't getting it, you know.
Yeah.
So
then you would just do 3 houses.
And that's
All right. So from what I gather, is going to be the best option is you got Travis, you got Mr. Miller, stand in the parking lot, catch each other next week, go to lunch. Yes.
I'm just saying, I count me too.
Huh?
You was counting these people over here that were against it, I would say,
Yeah.
count me too.
All right. But I would probably kick it back just like we done earlier. If y'all think you can work out a reasonable deal to work, represent it. Potentially, if it goes to RR on 4-acre lots, you can have 3 houses or 4 lots. Well, 3. You have 3 lots, or maybe have to do 3.5-acre
So
lots.
question here, before we go any further with that. The 5.83 acres.
Okay.
Would everybody be satisfied if I split that in half here, and we could go ahead and settle that one while we're here, and then we can all go to lunch and talk about, I don't mind buying lunch.
I go ahead
I
go ahead and tell you now, just on my behalf, because I live right beside it, and it's y'all's decision. I'm fine if y'all say divide it up in 3 tracts, 5 acres. I can stand seeing 3 houses in there on 5 acres more than I can 4 or 5 more.
Well, I ain't got enough land for that, that's the
Well,
thing.
that's,
Those are the people who.
so where we are now, again, to try to keep putting you in mind, is either say, go back and come up with a plan that seems like works, or we could grant you approval or with it being a maximum of 3 lots or 4 lots or whatever number.
I mean, if I could keep the little house on 2 acres, okay, that's there already, whether I move that house or keep that house, because it's already got its driveway, and I could get maybe 2 houses in the back, 'cause there's plenty of land there to do that with. You're talking about another 6 acres of land that's in the back. If I get 2 over there and 2 to the side, that's 4 new houses. That's only adding 4 new houses. There's already a house there. So if we can sell that out, and I done spent 8 hours, seems like, between, 2 different rezones or whatever. So, I mean, time is money for everybody. I don't want everybody coming in here sitting all that, but, I feel like that's a reasonable request.
Mr. Chairman, could I point out one more consideration?
Yes,
that I
sir.
think they need to think about. And I agree with Lee. I think at least the 9-acre parcel is going to be subject to the major subdivision regulations because it's being split in, so that's a parent parcel, and it's creating more than 4 lots. It's creating 4 lots plus part of a 5th lot. So,
Let's just scrap that 5th lot back there. That thing's being more trouble
well,
than it's worth.
I'm just saying that's one of the things to be considered, if the board chooses to remand back to planning and zoning, when you come back with a new plan, is perhaps to draw it in such a way that you don't invoke major subdivision regulations if you want to avoid those.
And let me say, I don't think it's one of those things we need to work out tonight. I think we just need to remand it back myself. It's what I think. Let y'all work on it and then bring it back as soon as possible.
So the 4 new houses, leaving the 5th existing one there, adding 4 new ones, looking at them as a combined 14 acres, 14 and a half acres. You're willing to do that. They're willing to accept that. Now we just need to vote, which we could stipulate, to go to RR with the stipulation of only 4 lots.
4 new.
4 new lots.
Yes.
We can stipulate that, and you won't have to revert it back if you're,
Correct.
and you're skipping your subregs.
Well, hold on, now is that 4 new lots leaving the house on a 2-acre parcel?
Yes.
That's
Mr.
not
Chairman,
what we're saying. We're not saying the
I'm gonna
house is
remand
there
it
now
back.
with 4 new lots. That's not what we're saying.
I thought originally I heard 4, I'd be fine with 4 houses, not 7.
It's not for us to work out tonight, it's to remand it back.
Divide it into 3 5-acre lots.
So now that we're not in agreement, then we're gonna kick it back, and y'all can figure it out there and then bring it back.
That's
I know, I'm sorry.
And that will be the best plan, I think, because that'll give everybody a time to input. And I'm sorry that you have to go through that, but I'm also want these folks over here taken care of too.
Now,
So
do I go back to the P&Z, or I just come back to y'all the next time around?
Well, we're remanding it back to them, so.
They will not conduct another public, there will not be another official public hearing.
That's right.
So, anything that, if y'all want to go through the process of approving or whatever, but there would not, the public hearing requirements have been
So we're
satisfied.
bring back whatever we talked about or whatever to hit them, and they're gonna say yay or nay, and then it's gonna go.
And I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of the ordinance with me, but I thought remand meant there was another public
There
hearing.
will be.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Stand corrected.
I have to do the advertising and all that
Right.
again, because it's totally different.
Because.
But you can bring it back earlier than if we remand
Can we
it back.
waive that advertising requirement?
No, because that's for the public at large.
That's state law.
Now, with this coming back, or being reprimanded back to the P&Z, is it of the exact same, to bring it back the way, or he has to have a new application?
No,
No, you're just reconsidering it as.
you're reconsidering with
As
options.
applied for before. But again, perhaps changing some, or coming up with some additions like number of lots, a site plan that would become binding and be a part of the motion, that sort of thing. Now, an alternative, if you don't want to go back through another public hearing, would be for the applicant to waive whatever time requirement, if there is one, and I just don't remember right now, to just come back to here with those further details for a vote, I suppose. I'm sort of making that one up as I go, because remand is normally what we
I believe that
do.
will be called table it, let him meet with them, and then they come back with the approved plan, and y'all just take the vote and be done.
Same different, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of whether you're gonna have another public
The
hearing.
only
or not.
opportunity is going back, is y'all have an opportunity to work it out. We can do it without any of that. but it's not being fair to both. So right now, being fair to both, taking it back to y'all, throwing the options out, y'all work out the details, bring it to us for a vote, instead of us sitting up here trying to work out details.
I think we will to do that.
Alright.
Hash it out amongst us.
Correct, so you see now how it would've been if we'd have tried to fix it.
I get, yeah.
You can't fix it here.
Well, that's the point, though, it has to be fixed there.
Right.
We can't fix it here.
That's correct.
So
We're
make
3
sure
hours
I'm clear.
in.
We gonna fix this, talk about it. It ain't gotta be advertised again for 30 days.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does, we have to meet
Yeah,
state
yeah.
law. Yeah, I have to advertise.
Okay, so
That's
even
state
if
law.
we're doing that, okay.
So you gotta come to my office, get me signed.
But it ain't gonna cost you nothing.
No
No.
new cost.
No cost
Okay.
And
to
then,
you, none.
and then that drawing, once y'all come to agreement, you know, the drawing there of the
Correct.
houses, you know, with the density that you're proposing, or that y'all have sort of agreed upon.
Put it- And the best thing to do is, if you're gonna do it, if you really think you're gonna do 4 or 3 or whatever, draw that out, place the houses, do the footage off Q Public. Let people know how far away you are, what you can and can't see. You know, y'all have to work together and let them draw their version. Says, if you're gonna do it, I only want it to go here. And then see what he says. This is a negotiation between y'all and a vote between us.
And as you mentioned a while ago, you know, you're talking about that public drive of 60.
Yeah.
And also just the, your proposal as part of it for the maintenance of it.
I got all
Yeah,
that.
perfect.
Okay, very good.
So now you need a vote.
Now, we're gonna table it, right?
We need a motion to remand to P and Z.
Motion to remand, yes.
No, we remand? I
What?
thought we tabled.
Are we just gonna do a modification of the application, is that what you're needing us to do?
On what?
On the original one to the new one?
Yes. I need a motion. To. No, you're right.
I'm confused now, because you said, straighten us out here. What do are we remanding or are we tabling? That's what I want to know.
I think staff's recommendation is to remand, and I would
Okay.
agree with that.
Okay, that's good.
Am I mistaken?
I'll make a
ma'am?
motion to remand it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second that.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirk, have a second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none. Terry?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
See y'all soon.
Want to comment to all of y'all, thank you very, it is
Yeah.
rare for us to have agreeable folks
That's right.
on both sides.
Yeah.
Agreeable folks who disagree. That's very good.
Just continue to be agreeable.
Thank y'all.
And understand.
Understand. All right, where are we gonna meet it?
Ain't gonna be nice.
Old business, discuss request for proposal comprehensive.
You
What
got
I mean?
number
Oh.
8. Flip it over, it's at the very top.
Oh, little bitty writing. I
Yeah,
got you.
sorry.
I see it now. No, I see it. Zoning ordinance codification, Madison County zoning ordinance, stormwater ordinance.
296.
Canola.
Yes, sir.
Flagging's off this morning. 4-0
To approve.
Yes, to codify
to codify the stormwater order.
Gotcha.
and the zoning ordinance.
So we have them 4-0 to approve the codification of the Madison County zoning ordinance and the stormwater ordinance. Thank you. Any questions, gentlemen?
May I ask?
Yes.
Just to clarify, there are no new changes being made, these are just codifying changes that have already been made in the
Correct.
past? Okay.
Only codifications.
So you'll get new books
Yes.
before I'm gone.
All right. Motion to,
So moved.
yep, motion by Derek. Second. Second by Mr. Chandler. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Before you go into other business, before we leave the P and Z, I think Derek's got something he wants to do, we can take care of that, and then we'll.
Urgent matters?
He'll be through with.
We can drop the urgent matters.
P&Z.
As far as P and Z for Derek's district, Colbert, we have found a P and Z member, Colonel Bruce Gandy. We just need to vote Mr. Bruce Gandy. Is it a recommendation by y'all?
Nope, it's my appointment.
It's your appointment.
So I'll make the motion to appoint, Colonel Bruce Gandy, for District 5 to the Planning and Zoning. I've spoken to him and he will accept the appointment.
Second motion. Enthusiastically.
Yes.
Okay, I'm really sorry, but can you spell that name?
Gandy?
What, his first name is Bruce?
Bruce. So I have a motion by Mr. Doster, appointment by Mr. Doster, a second by Mr. Chandler. Any discussion other than thank you and thank him and congratulations? Other than that, Brian?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Good job, you're tickled to death. Old business, discuss proposal of comp plan. So, Christopher, come on. So we've discussed this in depth, this comp plan. And God, I know we're running out of time. I mean, the years is growing shorter already. We're in 2022. We all woke up at 6.
Prior to, what you want to know?
It says, discuss proposal for comprehensive plan. You had narrowed it down to potentially 2, and then we had discussed our options, and I think that's what the board wants to hear, correct? Y'all said try to narrow it down and see where we were at.
Yeah, I mean, that was my understanding that the staff is gonna take a review at it and provide maybe up to 2,
Yes,
or maybe offer, 1 or 2 of us need to sit on an interview, or if y'all conducted an interview or something to give us something to go by.
Right now, what I've been able to do is I've reviewed them all, and inside of a week, with the holidays, I believe I've been able to narrow it down to our 2 best possibilities, but at the same time, I had some hesitancy with using any firm, because I had questions of employing a middleman, so to say. I looked at the history of our plans prior to this administration, so to say, and I believe from my findings that the comp plan was not, I'm trying to be nice, as productive as it could have been, because the county didn't put forth the effort and information in, and I believe that may be what's drawing us to
We're way ahead of you, that's why we're here.
Okay, I believe that's the reason we're looking for out, because the staff we had on hand, not putting anybody down by any means, didn't take the step up to be part of the conversation.
Yes.
As you say, I'm stealing that word from you right now. With that being said, I believe we could save ourselves $250,000 in the long run with the staff that we have now and the confidence that I have in them. Personally, to being able to I can't remember the young lady's name, the rep.
Ava Kennedy.
Ava Kennedy, between conversations with her, I believe that if we put the man hours in from our county staff, that this would become redundant in and of itself. That they specialize in the field, but they're still taking the information from us. So even though we may spend several tens of thousands of dollars for a middleman, if we put forth the effort, I believe we might be able to save ourselves money with our current staff.
So the 4 from RFP though, which of the 2 did you feel like was the best? For time purposes,
yes,
we're gonna get to that, and that way they can focus on essentially that, and then we'll throw that 3rd option in there.
Sorry, but I had all 5 in my mind, looking at the history and the present. Apologize. Hall Consulting, I felt was very outstanding. They have one of the best time plans. Not let's hear this, let's hear that. They've set deadlines. They have experience. I can't find anywhere to fault them. Where others, not so much. They are definitely a gold medalist, if you will. The other one that really stood out to me was the Southern Prosperity Consultant.
the Beatty team, they have like 3 different names
Yeah.
on here. Where they lack in, a time calendar for us. After talking and consulting, they seem to be the only firm that I've spoken to that has also in their concept rural and agricultural purposes. Just not develop. They, more so than the rest, have a understanding for the homesteaders. So to say, they've been here, the generational rural aspect of it. And that's one thing that put them over for me, was that consideration of taking in the present, just not looking down the road, but the farms and the rural life. And I can go down, but those are just my top 2.
Yeah, I think that's actually what I'd ask you to do, is to pick out the 2 that you feel most comfortable with. And I, in my observation of both, I came up with the same 2, and everybody's welcome to narrow it down. And what Christopher was alluding to is we sat down, and I got Eva on the phone and asked her, could she recommend either one, or had she ever worked with any of these 4? She has not. She said she's never heard of any of the 4 companies that she's been part of. RDC may have, but it wasn't her personally, and nobody's there over it now but her. So she couldn't give a recommendation one way or the other, whether they were good, bad, or indifferent.
One of those companies was Kimley Horn, was it not?
Kimley Horn.
She's never heard of Kimley Horn?
Yeah, she
she
did out of Atlanta. But she said she had never worked with them. She couldn't give a recommendation based on she had never worked with them personally.
I would not recommend them.
Yeah, that's the one that said 200,000 or something, yeah. But yeah.
For the record, they came in 3rd in my evaluation, if that matters. But regardless of which one, if we did choose to spend the county funds for the assistance in putting together this information, it will inevitably go back to her for final approval.
Yeah.
She's been aware of all of these, because every one of these has done a plan that's kind of had to go through her to get checked off. But she may not have worked with him in providing a plan, but she's had to have seen all these things.
Well, at one time, there were several people that saw him come across the desk. Now there's just one. Like John Devine may have seen him come across the desk before he left. Eva would not have seen him.
Yep. And I don't know her from Adam's house yet, so.
Looking through these, and I may have missed something, but don't they all have an hourly rate charge?
Some of them have hourly, but they all base off of like a bundle is the best way I can describe it.
No,
off the top of my head.
I can check it out.
I'm sorry. But they have various like add-ons
Yeah.
after the fact where
A lot of them
you bought a car, but you haven't got the warranty.
Right.
That's way.
So, yeah. Because I just noticed like Kimmy Horn or whatever it is, that they had a max of 200,000. But that doesn't necessarily mean you would use 200,000. But I'm just saying they all really basically are hourly, and we choose
Yes, sir.
what they do, right?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
Okay.
And that's where wading through it, some have involved city numbers for picking up each individual city, and then our cost effectiveness with that was our, I can't remember if it was $2,000 or what we cover at this point in time to them. And then others had a roundabout price per city. And then others tried to envelop it all in.
I can tell you that based off mine and Christopher's conversation, discussing these, and even with Christina, I don't think this board is prepared to make any kind of decision at this point. I think we're a long way from it. I think there has to be I ain't gonna say a long way from it, there'll have to be a table come. I think we need to be all on the same table, because myself and Christopher is not, we truly believe that RDC is going to be our best option. And so that's why I say we need a meeting to discuss that.
We need to work on this a little while.
That's right. And that's why I say we're not on the same page, so I think we all need to come to the same page before we go really any further. And based off what Eva said, because I said, Eva, take all names out, take where you work out, how does this process work? And Mike probably knows this with some of the stuff he's seen. Everybody's gonna ask you the same routine questions. They're gonna ask them to us. We have, the obligation for them to putting it on paper is what we choose for them to put on paper.
Yes.
What we're hiring somebody to do is ask us the right questions. If we are not involved, we get a crap from Kimberly or we get a crap from RDC. If we are involved, we get exactly what we pay for, no matter who we pay it to.
Yes, sir.
The difference is the federal government's gonna subsidize 75% of whatever that bill is. But the question coming off is question number one, where do you see your future Madison County going? They're both gonna ask that question, but at what rate is Kimberly gonna ask it versus RDC gonna ask it? So there's a generic set of questions they're all gonna use. It depends on who you want to put it on paper and how much information you don't give them. If we don't answer that question, then they'll pick it off of their past experiences with other counties.
Yeah. My question is
Yes, sir.
you're talking about staff.
Yes, sir.
All right, what staff we talking about? We're gonna have you and who?
Well, me and Todd had talked about this, and it would depend on the recommendation for who they would need specific information from. We couldn't exactly pull our county clerk off.
No.
But we have,
Staff,
I think that
staff
you might
meeting,
want to say that.
So this has got to have some further analysis about what staff we would have and where their expertise is at, right?
Staff would mean an Anna Strickland, a board of commissioners, a board of an election, a board of education. Whichever 5 people you pull, one from each group, that 5 people is gonna get the same questions from Kimberly as they're gonna get from RDC.
Yes.
The only difference is, if we don't answer that question, Kimberly will have a resource potentially that RDC don't have.
Mr. Doctor, do you speak, or I'm fixing to?
Well, y'all, either one of y'all,
only
I
had
just
one
said we're
week,
not
so
on the same page,
I want everybody to reach out because I've only had 1 week to try and go through this, and I didn't even cut loose for New Year's, so, you know.
Well, number one, I think we as this governing body, requested that these RFPs go out. And obviously if RDC didn't submit anything or provide anything to us, that's one thing. 2, I don't think we got the resources to go out to do what I think I heard in our strategy meeting or kickoff meeting, whatever they called it to begin with, that we had over at Jackson EMC, that I know several of us were there, that we committed to getting some in-depth community input, allowing people to come and speak, without prompted questions or not, be able to analyze that data. It is as much as a PR effort up front as it is anything.
Yes.
And I think the amount of time that it's going to take to do that and to do it appropriately has been the failure in the past of where everybody else is at. And I don't think we've got the resources to do that in-house. Now, what do you do with the data? What do you do with that? There's no doubt in my mind that, again, at the end of the day, we've got to have RDC to sign off on it.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean we can't have an outside third party kind of help us transition into that, or even provide that data to them for a final write-up.
Yes.
I realize RDC subsidizes it. I understand that. However, I think there's going to be a limitation of what they can do based on the amount of hours that they have and their other clients. That if we don't go outside, I'm looking at this as I know it's updated every so many years or, every 10 years. I'm looking at this, and my other colleagues can weigh in as much as they want to, but I'm thinking this is a generational quest.
Yes, sir. To
finalize something that we can be proud of, that we can build off of, and it's just not checking a box.
Yes.
And so,
I agree with that.
the idea of not having, and I think, does anybody want to spend a bunch of money for no reason or no effort and no gain? No, but I think some of that money that'll be spent will be wisely spent. And
yes,
I know several of those firms, and I know some of the people in those firms,
yes,
and they do a good job of getting that information, getting it pulled back. Now, do we leave credence to, you know, one has maybe a little more rural bent, have an understanding versus a, you know, big metropolitan area? You know, I think that's the discussion we have to get comfortable with on the best way to move that forward.
Yes, sir. I was handed forward, and I wanted to make sure I took everything into
No, you done a good
consideration,
job.
not meaning to stir y'all's pots
No.
deliberately here by any means, but I just wanted to make sure I was doing my due diligence about looking at the history of it.
We've been here a long time, but bear with me. This is,
Sir, yes, sir.
I think this is probably the most important thing we'll address as a group of commissioners.
Yes, sir.
And I can tell you, I've been through 3 of these comprehensive plans before with the RDC doing it, and it is purely generic. They're gonna take what opinions they get from the questions that they provide.
Yes.
And they're gonna give you a generic document that satisfies all we need to check the boxes. And I'm telling you, where we are in Madison County 5 years ago and absolutely today, we
Yes, sir.
need much, much more than that.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna give you, as I went through these, I came up with some questions, and surprisingly, I came up with the same top 2 as you did, taking RDC out of the picture.
So I'm not that far behind the ball.
But there's in my mind, based on the presentation they've made, RDC was out of the picture to me.
No, I wasn't here for that.
That's me.
He was fired, or he transferred jobs, I'm sorry, he was not fired, he transferred jobs.
Anyway, there were some critical things that, in the history of having been through 3 of these, that were never presented by the RDC to my satisfaction or degree of understanding, like the impact of what's going on in adjacent counties, what that likely impact is for us. I've never seen anybody give specific information, specific population information. The likelihood is you're gonna see a population push of so many thousand people coming from this area. You're gonna see a population push of so many thousand. That information has never been there, has never been provided in any one of these cases. And I'm absolutely convinced if we're gonna do this right, we gotta have that. We got to know clearly who we are as Madison County, and we have to have a good picture of what those outside forces may do to us. Now there's a lot of underlying things, and people put together flowery proposals. The one that was the least flowery that said the most to me, and again, you're talking about somebody putting some terms in, and you've got to kind of wade through that.
Yes, sir.
But the Beatty proposal, in their terminology, hit on what I feel like are some of the hot button issues, and they carried it, and they essentially, and I don't know how much of this is just proposal, and I don't know what work they went into to providing this proposal, but they're looking at this as a big picture thing, not just comprehensive plan, but and you mentioned some of the things, the rural character of infrastructure investment, and he essentially said we're talking about zoning ordinances, we're talking about all the county ordinances, everything. Now when you look at that, that's $243,000. But he's looking at this from the same thought process that I am. We got a big deal here to look at.
And his numbers also included the cities, and his
That's
where
correct.
others might
His
hit.
did include the cities. When I look at the one from Hall, $148,000, it does say planning and zoning ordinance, but it does not specify, does it include the cities, are they priced separately? And one of the things it said more than one time are cities stand alone. We talked about the cities being a component of the total comprehensive plan. So that's one of the things that, and again, when I think about ordinances, and one of the reasons we're looking at the department that y'all are representing here tonight, the way we're looking at it, because these are not standalone issues. It's
Yes,
not
sir.
code enforcement, it's not building inspection, it's not planning and zoning. They all need to be considered as one.
Oh, yes, sir.
And to me, that one made greater recognition of it. Maybe the Hall one made somewhat of recognition of it, but they're talking about cities as standalone, and that really kind of bothered me.
And their fee structure, in case anybody needs to flip through it, is page 26, and it carries through after that with a little more timeline and consultant processes of $133,000 to be competible, but on page 26 they're sitting at $123,000.
The way I looked at theirs is $148,000. Again, it wasn't clear about does this include the cities or not. The Kimberly and Horn at $200,000. Again, it doesn't state about rewrite or restructure of zoning, building code. Doesn't include any of those. And the other one Robert and Company was just a high price RDC. And that was my take on it. Again, this is a big deal to me.
Yes.
So-
And we're crossing a generational rule gap here.
Mr. Mike Beatty actually came to the office and spoke with me and the chairman one day. Mike Beatty, you said he used to work at the DCA, he was over the DCA, so he's really familiar with that
He was a
process.
state senator at one time.
Yeah, and so he does the Beatty firm, and then the Southern Prosperity Consultant, they're out of Homer, and I spoke to him, I think his name was, I'm not sure what his name was.
Brad Day.
Do what?
Brad Day.
Yes, that's it. And so, he sat in our office and he explained that they go into the redoing the zoning ordinances, they go into your SDS plan, but he has his consulting firm is connected to so many other different firms, they all work together in that.
Yeah, that proposal is from somebody else, the Beatty firm is just presenting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically says, I'm one guy and I know all those different people, which one do you need me to contact for you?
Yeah.
And that's basically exactly what he said.
That's exactly what he said.
But bottom line for me, I am tighter with your money than Todd Higbee is. I am tighter with your money than Todd Higbee is, and I'll tell you, this is an investment. Whichever route, this is a very, very important investment.
See, I have no, contact with anybody prior to the young lady that's come in now, and she's been very open with me, so I don't have a history with whoever her predecessor was.
And I don't have a problem with the RDC and with Eva Kennedy. I think they probably do good work, but based on my perception of what we need, I think we're way beyond them.
Well,
That's
I just want y'all to know I took it into consideration.
My opinion on that is if we're gonna use the Regional Development Commission, we might as well go in yonder, get the notebook that they gave us before, slide the cover sheet out of it, put 2022 in it, and we're done. I mean, that's it. You know, and they don't have a clue what Madison County is.
Yes, sir.
And they never will have.
You were asking earlier, Derek, or Brian, one of y'all, I don't remember now. Where does these groups gonna come from? It's gonna focus that effort. Those same groups have to exist no matter who we choose.
Well, I understand that, but
I mean,
what
we
I'm
all
saying
gotta
is
do
for
it.
them to handle it by themselves, I'm all with Terry on it. I mean, you're definitely part of it. I mean, we got a lot of folks that gotta be part of it.
It's
But
gonna be very entwined with
it's
us.
gonna be entwined, and we gotta have that, but we gotta have the public, we gotta have outside, and just like Terry said, we need to have some input for what the other counties around us are doing, cause Jackson County, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yes,
and
sir.
some of it's gonna affect Madison County, and it's already affecting Madison.
Oh, yes, sir.
Quickly.
I just wanted to take the history involved since I wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to stir y'all by any
No,
means.
no,
I just,
no,
I wanted to do my
We
best.
already been stirred.
We've already stirred.
I just wanted to.
And I'm glad
Shake it,
that
not stir it.
Christina, now that I know that Christina said too, that, you know, my concern was that this was a bunch of different consultants that looked like to me that
Yeah.
was just not really tightly banded. But if we, you know, maybe there's some assurances there that that's gonna be more tightly than I think, then that would make me.
Well, we have till January 31st, if you choose to vote on it. We have 28 days that everybody can do a little more in-depth research if we choose, and then vote on it on the 31st if we want.
This is what I used, I don't know,
Well,
the one that you gave me, that's how I went about it.
go,
That scoring sheet.
regard,
I went about
The score
evaluating
sheet
these.
from the RFP.
Oh, the score sheet, yeah.
Yeah, in case y'all wondering like what I used as a baseline.
regardless of the different fees in those proposals, it's all man-hour based. And so what, I think, it boils down to me, and this is what I tell my clients, is it's just a trust factor.
Yes, sir.
And so, you know, I can negotiate anything in or out depending on what you want me to do.
Yes, sir.
So, and I think I would highly suspect that each one of these firms, they took their best guess at what we wanted.
Yes, sir.
My suggestion or recommendation would be is if we need to, we can't all be on it, but if, you know, a committee of two of us plus staff, do some sort of like WebEx interview.
Sure.
With maybe the two top, I mean, if the two firms are acceptable to everybody, that Christopher pointed out,
do an interview with them individually. We can ask questions, we can get comfort level with it, and then out of that, we come in with a final recommendation. We award the contract, with, some dollar amount not to be exceeded, and we can negotiate out this final task items. Because it may get to the end of it, we may need to, add money as we go along. Like I said, we can get them to break out specific task and value of that task easier when we're across the table and having that conversation.
I think the Beatty team, didn't they do that, the Southern Prosperity?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was on
Broken
the
down.
flash drive.
There's a couple of that are broken down.
Yeah.
Did any of the
See, I'm trying to
proposals
go from the
include
digital
contract
back to
forms?
this. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I did see that.
Okay, I don't think I got copies.
What is it?
Okay.
I guess the only thing I
It's not
would
a on
suggest
on
to
flash drive right there.
our
That'd be great,
group that expands on the interview process, is that we insist that the principal of the organization be the one that we speak with. We need to talk to somebody that can tell us, this is what we do, not I'll have to verify. I mean, the guy at the top knows, And that would be the only suggestion.
Your own I don't disagree with that. I would ask them to bring the appropriate staff for.
Yeah, they can bring support staff.
In my company, if you ask to have my CEO on there, he's gonna turn around and say,
Done, sir.
okay, these are the guys that do the work.
That's right.
So,
If not, I'll call you.
All right. So we got a plan, but we'll try to reach out to both of these firms, see if we can set up a
Is that
Zoom
the two you
meeting.
would pick to choose from, those, is that?
All Consulting and Southern Prosperity.
All of Southern Prosperity?
Yes, 1 and 2.
Or who do you think?
no, I'm agreeing with the body. If we wanna have, that don't just.
Well,
No,
let's just
the
go through these
board
two
asked
first.
Mr. Roach to make 2 recommendations, so we're stuck, so I think we're going with those.
Yeah. Unless one of these bomb in the Zoom meeting, we'll stick with these two. Okay, perfect.
Okay,
All right.
who would y'all like to do that, the Zoom meeting? Just Todd and then,
No.
No, we got,
Y'all?
I propose that we have 2 from the board, and I propose Mr. Chandler
Think I can sit on my hands and do
and
it?
Mr. Dawson.
and are y'all wanting,
We'll contact them and set it all up. That'd be fine.
At least,
Yeah,
You know,
at least,
yeah, you
don't
got-
make this a board, if you make it a board vote appointed committee, then you're back to the same open meetings problem you have without it, so just let administration coordinate it, it'd be my.
Yeah, we'll let you coordinate it tomorrow. All right, thanks. All right, we're good. Discuss the department structure, planning and zoning, building inspection, code enforcement as one department. You know, we voted in December 20th to make Christopher the department head of planning and zoning, not fully realizing that that had been changed in our wording to building and zoning, I guess is what it is called now. So we said that we would revisit the fact of the building inspection side of it, because we was looking at it separately at the time when we done it, and now find out that it's called the same. We had a discussion today of myself, Christopher, Eddie, and Tracy about how that umbrella fell. You have a copy of the umbrella in your packet. I think that was the original umbrella, and at this time, the board can do 3 things. We can, the way we had appointed Christopher the other night, planning and zoning, department head, could be changed to planning and zoning, building inspection, or building and zoning department head. Or we can leave building separate, and appoint a department head for building, or based on a scenario that happened this week, I feel like last week, I think we need to take a pause from that. And at this time, we can either leave building as it stands, self-ran by the multi-year building inspector that we currently have, or you can place me over it, or you can appoint him over it. To combine these two today, I think we need to revisit that combination in the future if we're going to do that. Y'all are welcome to do whatever you like. It's just a recommendation of how I see this week's went. If either of you would like to speak on this matter, you're more than welcome. While we're in the discussion, because it says discuss department structure. If not, we will leave it amongst the board. Did I clarify that well enough? I was trying to remember everything best I could. All right.
Personally, I think that we should probably leave it where Christopher's planning and zoning at this point, just in my consideration, and that over the building, at least in a temporary state until we can further discuss it, that you are the head of that until such time as we determine how we want to go forward with it. That's just my proposal, but
all right.
I'll throw that out.
That is an option, yes, sir. Any other discussion, gentlemen?
I would agree with Brian. I think at this point, that would be our best option. And then as we move forward and have maybe a little bit better, more defined understanding of where people are at and what they're doing, then if we need to make changes, we can.
I agree completely, Kurt, given the information we've been given. It is my feeling, like I stated with the previous issue, that all of these are one concern. That they do not need to operate independently, and we need to work towards creating that environment, however's best to do that. I agree with Brian's recommendation at this point.
Any other discussion? So, based off of the change of me overseeing that, we would have to have a vote, correct? Or do we need one?
I'm a little lost in it. So what would the change be from who overseeing it?
Well, right now, there's nobody over it. It's self-ran.
Okay.
To me overseeing it if there was a departmental decision that had to be made.
My interpretation of that is no vote necessary, because if there's not an appointed manager in between, you're already, it goes straight to you on the work chart. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And guys, I'll accept that responsibility on knowing that I think it'll be short-lived. I truly believe it'll be a short-lived situation.
Yeah, I think.
All right, new business. Consider adopting a resolution supporting.
So is that no department head then?
Correct.
No over building inspection?
Building itself, yes.
But we still have a P&Z and code enforcement department head?
Correct.
But not buildings, okay.
Right.
Not department, yes.
Not right now.
Okay.
This new business that can take long.
It's good gracious. This is the longest meeting ever. Oh my God.
These are really short and sweet.
Zachary, you keep grinning inside that mask or you're asleep.
Y'all wanna write this for me?
No. Consider adopting a resolution supporting reform to Georgia's annexation dispute law. I think this is the one that come down from Rob Leverett, maybe from you. I don't remember exactly where.
Yeah, is this the one? I think we softened some of the language from the one they sent us. It was what this goes to is, and not would. We have, in my time here, we've never had a problem with any of the cities, but in some places, the cities sort of have a unilateral right to annex property. There's this very convoluted objection and arbitration procedure, and the General Assembly actually had a study committee to to make some recommendations about how to make that a better process. And this resolution's just encouraging the General Assembly to adopt some or all of those recommendations. I think, if I may be mixing it up, but I think we tried to make it less county versus city.
Exactly. And it really boiled down to, like, one of the cities is, somebody's trying to branch off in Atlanta, and it gets really convoluted if you read it. And this don't happen here, so we made it soft enough to where we get along and it's gonna work. Not a big deal, it's done
Right.
pretty regular. So consider adopting this. This can go on the 31st. We don't have to do this today, do we?
Not that I know.
I don't remember seeing a deadline on it.
Yeah, it's June.
Yeah, so no, we'll do it on the next one. Consider reappointing Michael Baker. Huh? Oh, you wanna do it now?
No, I mean, no. There ain't nothing we're gonna change.
She wants that paperwork
Attorney's
done
already
by
done it.
tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
One
So,
more thing
do I have a motion to consider adopting
Well,
the resolution?
well, this is not considered, it's actually voting on it.
Yeah. Do I have a
No,
motion
consider
to
means
adopt?
vote, discuss means not vote.
Okay. All right?
Mike, are you satisfied with the verbiage in this?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion we accept.
Second it.
this. Presented.
Christina's so happy. First by Mr. Adams, second by
I
Mr.
wouldn't give
Kirk.
it to the board if
Any
Mike hadn't done
discussion? Hearing none.
Yes.
Terry said yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we do know who's in charge.
If mine, if that 3.5 hours worth of minutes ain't done by 11 o'clock tomorrow, I'll be surprised. All right, consider reappointing Michael Baker to the Board of Assessors. Everybody has agreed, Robin has agreed. It's a re-up, it's not a new appointment. So, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
Let me be reappointed.
Mr. Chandler, that's a motion. Mr. May, second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Actually, it's on Frank. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome, Michael Baker. Urgent matters, there is none, because we've handled Colonel Bruce Gandy. Executive session discussed real estate acquisitions, personal matters, or potential litigations.
No, sir.
Hearing none.
Before you go on,
Yes.
it's an urgent matter for me.
Okay.
For the group that I represent, but, we just wanted to commend the board on taking steps and moving forward for developing some comprehensive noise ordinances in the county. It's going to help the people that are being bothered now, but in the future, it'll protect all of us from something happening that shouldn't. And again, I commend the board on doing that, and I hope it works out okay. Sergio turns out to have a very good sound study for you, and I hope they do as well on helping you get to some zoning ordinances about noise in the county. Thank you all for doing that.
Mr. Drago, thank you very much. I owe that mainly to Derek. He has took the lead on that, and he followed up. He made those balls move. So we appreciate what he's done on that part, but thank you very much for the recognition.
I was happy to see it happen.
Yes, sir. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yes.
I'll be here with you now.
That was the longest one ever.
Oh, this thing.
Oh, complication.
All right.
Right there.
Alrighty.
Kind of air.
Dave, please.
Kind of goes to.
I do.
And Christina.
Flossing in the twilight moment.
What I'm saying,
Okay.
if anything, 5 to 10 acres,
You know what she is?
$500 acres, everything, 5 to 10 acres. That's where we're missing budget.
Shared today, I know.
I mean, I do think they have some potential in that cell tower
That's the
stuff,
truth.
that type of area. I don't necessarily think it's in your small mines.
And I wouldn't be
Here, you leave that
I
for
wouldn't be
him.
opposed.
I did.
There's a.
I left it for the government to clean it up. I don't need it.
No wrapping, no
Oh.
Once we make the decision that how a 10-acre property, 5 to 10 or $7,500 an acre, all of a sudden, everything is 5 to 10 acres.
Let me tell you something.
Nothing built on it, just raw land.
Just the land portion of it, and the housing is separate.
Hey, I could ask that question. I've already heard that multiple times.
That's the problem I have. That takes all the negotiation and recommend that based on current sales, based on recent sales, everything 5 to 10 acres, all the.
There's some
We have
stuff.
every parcel that size, and it gives there's no reason.
I've had that asked of me several times in the years, like, how does this $100,000 house have $1,100 tax? Mine, 1,100 square foot house, have a $1,300. That's a $200.
Right.
There's more.
Somewhat, but they really don't anymore. They don't appraise them anymore. Now they're costing, if it sells, then yours is that value.
My goal was
I may look, and it's just because of the
I don't, I might know what they're charging. Our board is good more, honestly, that board. Let them old people do all the like mine.
But I'll be so glad to leave.
You're so glad to leave? I do. I'll be glad to leave too.
We're all glad to leave, but. Well, that's the only way I know. I've done my 20 years of it, and I'm going home to my coach.
My brother-in-law had a
Usually I'll be in the way, he's doing pretty good now because that's better. You got accounts payable, different time zones, it's a nightmare.
You know, when
You know what I'm talking about?
we just bought all those land and we went down.
I want orders all the y'all.
The last month or two.
But it's all right, I know it's scary.